Today, the American Le Mans Series starts its second half, the championship run, at the first of America's great post-war permanent road courses, Road America. It set the standard at the time, and all agree it has well withstood the test of time.
All over the world you'll hear guys talk about Road America.
Classic is the word. I mean, there's not many circuits like this anymore in the world anywhere.
High speeds, good corners, good high-speed corners. It's the right place to be.
Here you can really stretch yourself as a driver.
I think Road America is really the place which separates the girls from the boys.
It's where everyone wants to go. I mean, this is what I look forward to every year.
It's one of the greatest road courses.
And we all love it.
The track is just amazing.
I think it really is a classic racetrack. When you say classic, it's absolutely the definition of the word.
The name says it all. It's Road America, right?
Wisconsin's East Central Kettle Moraine Forest was carved by glaciers, and Elkhart Lake visionary Cliff Tufte in the mid-1950s decided to use that natural landscaping to create the marvel that is Road America. And today it plays host to the 7th round of the 2008 American Le Mans Series title chase, the Generac 500. Now when you take a look at what's unfolded to date in the series, we've had 3 different overall winners so far, and you have to go back to 2000 to find that many in a single year. After a dismal season last year, Audi has bounced back with 3 overall wins in the season's first half, almost matching last year's total.
Lucas Luris had a spectacular season in anybody's book. The team has had 5 wins, 5 pole positions. This is your second pole. As you look towards the championship, Lucas, have you allowed yourself to even think about that trophy at the end, or is it race by race still?
No, I mean, for sure the championship is nice, but the priority is to win as many races as possible. And I think we are on a good way with the pole yesterday, and today it also looks good for us. We saw this morning in the warm-up we are quite quick. So hopefully we just have another win, and as you win as many races as possible, the championship comes by itself.
In P2, the dominant Porsches have been challenged by the Highcroft Acura. The Penske Porsche has 2 overall wins and 4 class victories against 1 overall and 2 class wins for the Acura team.
Andretti Green Racing has struggled to be competitive in the early part of the season, but now moving into the second half on pole, Franck Montagny, your 3rd race with your 3rd different co-driver. How important is it at this point in the championship to turn this pole into a win?
I think it's very important for the team, especially when you get new drivers in, and we show on the last 2 races that we had the speed, but unfortunately we were not able to show it during the race. So it's quite important to be on pole today, and it's a good beginning. Now we have to end up correctly.
In GT1, a friendly intra-squad battle has turned downright physical. Johnny O'Connell and Jan Magnussen have won 5 of 6 in 2008, but at Lime Rock, a push by O'Connell turned into a shove at Mid-Ohio when Olivier Beretta clouded O'Connell during a pit road drag race.
Johnny O'Connell is looking for his 3rd ALMS Drivers' Championship. That would tie him with his good friend Ron Fellows. But, Johnny, a lot of people have said you don't have a lot of competition. There's not a lot of rivalry. They obviously didn't watch Mid-Ohio, did they?
You know, I mean, they probably didn't. I mean, you know what? There might not be the full field that we certainly would enjoy having. You know, everybody at Chevrolet, we're about winning. We're about competition. We're about being the best. But, you know what? The hardest car to beat in racing, even if Aston Martins or Ferraris or whatever are here, is the number 4 car. I mean, those guys are great drivers. They got a great team. They got the same stuff that we do. So anytime we get a win over them, it's been a successful day.
In GT2, Porsche, just like Audi, has bounced back from a dismal 2007 with 3 wins from the Flying Lizard team. But Ferrari has countered with 3 wins from Tafel Racing. And defending champions Mika Salo and Jamie Mello have been reduced to the role of spoiler after a horrible first half of the season.
Dirk Muller on the GT2 pole for the first time for Tafel Racing. The competition in GT2 is so intense. It's been a 3-3 result for Porsche and Ferrari in the first 6 races. You're on the lead today. How important is that for a 4-hour race?
Unluckily not so important, because it's more like a personal thing. You don't get any points, but on the other hand, it really thrills the team. It's really a give back to the team. They've given me such a great car yesterday in qualifying, Michelin, everybody. And now it really pushes the team
Today it needs to be like every race in the past. It needs to be trouble-free in terms of strategy, in terms of driver mistakes, in terms of pit stop mistakes. And then at the end, you said it, it's so tiny close, it's unbelievable. But it's great for the spectators.
Welcome, everybody, to an absolutely beautiful day for racing here at Road America. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Calvin Fish. And Calvin, you know, the American Le Mans Series started coming here in 2002, and for the first 5 years, Audi owned it. But they were devastated last year to get beat by the Penske Porsche Spiders. Based on the pace we've seen in qualifying, have they righted the ship?
They certainly have, Greg. And remember, last year they essentially beat themselves, battling between the two cars. Penske nipped in. They will not make that mistake again. And they have a much faster race car. Remember the challenge from Peugeot at Le Mans. They had to develop the R10. It's much faster, well suited to this very fast racetrack. And significant today is the fact they have a much bigger fuel cell. That'll play a part in their victory if possible.
And speaking of those Penske Spiders, one of the interesting things, they've had a lot of development in the engine department coming to Road America, all about straight line speed and low downforce. The Acuras have excelled at the high downforce tracks. Big surprise in qualifying.
It was. Montagny on the pole. The good news is Acura faster every type of racetrack that we go to, but don't count out those Penske Porsches. First time since 2006 they've been locked out of the first two rows on the grid, but they have that new DFI engine that gives them great fuel economy, and Road America at 4 miles long, it's all about fuel strategy today.
And that will play out shortly. 4 hours of racing coming up here. And best of all, it's happening at Road America. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series Generac 500 is brought to you by Acura. Acura Advance. By Touch of Gray. New Touch of Gray lets you keep some gray hair. Touch of Gray for the generation that swore it would never get old. And by Michelin. A better way forward. Welcome back to Road America, everybody. The field out on its lone pace lap here on this beautiful 4-mile track. We want to get you right to our Touch of Gray starting grid. We'll show you the entire starting lineup across the top of the screen in our crawl, but we also want to have the pole sitters in each of the 4 classes of the American Le Mans Series introduce themselves to you right now.
Hi, I'm Lukas Luhr from Koblenz in Germany.
Marco Werner from Ermating in Switzerland.
Hi, I'm Frank Montagny and I'm from France.
Hi, I'm James Ross and I'm from England.
My name is Oliver Gavin, I'm from Yardley Hastings, England.
I'm Olivier Beretta from Monaco, Monte Carlo.
Hello, I'm Dominik Farnbacher from Lichtenau in Germany.
Hi, I'm Dirk Miller from Monaco.
All right, and I mentioned as we led into that, this is a 4-mile track, Calvin, but that hardly tells the story about Road America. Tell us about it.
Well, Road America, Greg, is 4 miles of pure exhilaration as we take a look at the track map. And you can see why it's the fastest racetrack that the American Le Mans Series runs on. Look at these long straightaways, down to 1, down to 5, and down into Canada corner. But the dilemma for the engineers is there's a lot of corners as well. Do you put drag in the car and downforce, try to be quick into the braking zones and through the corners, or do you trim it out for those long straightaways? The drivers, well, all 14 are a challenge, but particular interest is here through that long carousel corner, the infamous kink, and this is the fastest part of the racetrack, 190 miles an hour, the Audis were seeing in qualifying.
Bravado is some of the key here. That is our Yokohama track map. Now we've got some great onboard looks for you, 7 of them to be exact, and we're going to show them to you right now. They're going to give us some good stuff. Just going to give them to you in a couple of groups here. The number 2 Audi, the 6 Penske Porsche, the number 9 Acura, which has been so impressive as of late, the number 15 Lowe's Acura, which has been very fast even though they've struggled with some results, the 45 Porsche of Jörg Bergmeister, Gilles de Ferran's Acura, and the 87 Farnbacher Lowell's entry. And the field coming up, we are ready to go green here at Road America. Round 7 is underway.
And as you'd expect, look at those Audis with that TDI power. Pirro again getting a phenomenal start. He jinks to the outside. Lukas Luhr holds it on the inside, takes the lead.
And look at the move down to the 3rd overall spot, the P2 lead right off the bat. That is the Lowe's machine of Diaz. Just a great launch. They have been impressive, but John Field doing what John Field does in the early going, making a run up through the pack. He picks up 4th overall.
What a run by John Field. Qualified 8th, just like Salt Lake City. He wants to see the lead today.
Calvin, some of the fastest trap speeds all weekend long have not been the Audis, they've been John Field. You mentioned it, Salt Lake City all over again. He said he's going to the front, and he is right now.
And in big defensive mode, once they get down to turn 5, little wiggle there, but now the Lowe's Acura looking up the inside. We'll have to see whether Field can cover. We hop on board with Sasha Maassen.
Well, they qualified well down, the second of the Penske Porsches, 9th on the grid. Very much a surprise to see those boys struggling here this weekend. You're waiting for the tire temps and the tire pressures to come up. You can see that Sasha was not committed through that corner. The speeds will increase as they get some laps under their belt here.
The two Audis breaking away, but John Field did hang on under the attack up into turn 6. Now through the carousel here, and out of the carousel, the exit speed's huge, and then that run, as you pointed out, down into turn 12, Canada corner. This is fast, and that car should just draw away. The AER power plant in that car, they've struggled a little bit with some turbo issues, but when I talked to John earlier, he said it's been running well. We think we're in good shape.
Well, he was licking his lips coming to here, and other circuits on the schedule coming up. Motorsports, certainly when we get to Petit at Road America, that's where that car should excel. On board here with Diaz through 13, very difficult racetrack. Then you're going to come up, this is where the new tunnel is. There's a little bump in the road there just before they hit the brakes. And the final turn, looking for that long stretch. And this is where that P1 car in front of him should stretch his legs and go away.
A very nice start, very nice and smooth. That guy will probably get out of your way here pretty soon.
They're talking to Luis Diaz about Field. They expect him to fade a little bit. The Dunlops have been very quick in the early laps, but they tend to go away a little bit and not hold the consistency of maybe the Michelins on Diaz's car.
As they were approaching turn 1, I just noted both of the Audis seemed to be doing some pretty serious front-end porpoising, and the other cars were not. What's causing that?
Well, it's a critical component. I spoke to Lucas Luhr this morning about the setup. In fact, these two cars are running different aero setups on the number 1 and the number 2 machine. And the problem is if you get the front end of that car too close to the ground, it seals and then releases that aerodynamic effect of the front splitter, and then it causes that porpoise effect, and that really makes it a problem for these drivers.
And there is a look as we hop on board with the number 9 Acura. This is the Patron Acura from Highcroft Racing, and David Brabham on board right now. And this year, I don't think I've ever seen Brabham driving better. He has been spectacular at Le Mans in the GT1 class, but what he's achieved in this car so far this season has been stunning.
Well, David is certainly a master. He's won in all 4 classes now in the American Le Mans Series. He's had four pole positions in all 4 classes, and he's very focused. He says he has a clear mental picture of his goals, and that is certainly translating through this whole team. And now Scott Sharp is certainly coming up to a similar pace to David, and that makes them a potent combination.
Yeah, Sharp's opening stint at Mid-Ohio was very impressive indeed. It's like he's finally really found what it needs to really hustle these cars around. And this ride through here is something. This is turn 12 called Canada Corner.
And there you see David really fighting the wheel. These cars do have traction control on the prototypes. He'll need it as the tires go away a little bit over the course of this stint.
Guys, the Highcroft team running on this Acura ARX-01 chassis, a lower drag setup aerodynamically this weekend. Duncan Dayton says it produces the same amount of downforce, but without the aerodynamic drag, and that is key here at this long Road America circuit. Calvin, as you can attest to, they struggled with it in the beginning part of the weekend, but it really seemed to come good in qualifying, and right now, David Brabham running very, very well here at Road America.
Well, Acura came up with this new low downforce package, and unfortunately they had a test here on Monday which pretty much rained out. They only got about an hour of dry running, so suddenly this race weekend, Greg, becomes a very short period of time to get the car sorted out in.
It's tough to do it, under the pressures of, especially when we're now into a Saturday race, not a Sunday race. You lose that day of the weekend as well. But boy, it's worth it when you're racing into the dusk here at Road America. Now let's see what's going on in GT2, and there is your pole sitter, Dirk Muller, and that Tafel Ferrari has just been very impressive from the get-go. That Bell Micro entry, and we talked about it, 3 wins. A couple of them have come with strategy calls, but they've always been very quick as well.
They really have, and they've had the ability to double stint tires on occasion and take them to victory lane. But this is a classic battle this year between Ferrari and Porsche. The lead Ferrari right now driven by Dirk Muller's teammate Dominic Farnbacher, and here you see the Flying Lizards in close pursuit. They are the team. This number, that 45, the yellow windshield, as you see there, the distinguishing mark between the 3 Flying Lizard cars. They have had 3 victories as well this year.
Don't forget that Dirk Muller qualified last year on the pole, so very quick around this Road America circuit. The only knock on the Ferrari right now on this long racetrack with the full throttle that you have here, over 65% of the time, it does not get the fuel mileage of the 4-liter in the Porsche power plant. So right now, the Ferrari camp a little bit concerned. If this goes green the entire way, they may have to do 4 stops to the Porsche's Plan 3.
Well, that was one of the things in qualifying in GT2 was we were a little bit surprised to see the Ferraris on the front row with that new power plant and the small front end of those Porsches. But now you've got to factor in fuel strategy, this long track. That's what makes racing at Road America so spectacular indeed. We have a lot more to come. Welcome back to Road America, and just before the start of this race, a very spectacular moment. A couple of Warthogs doing a very low flyover, really thrilling the crowd, and frankly, when they came over the TV booth here while we were sitting here, kind of got us up and out of our chairs. He was on the deck. It was awesome, as is the race that's unfolding right now. As we come back, here are our 4 class leaders: Lucas Luhr overall in P1, in P2, Wally Gavin in GT1, and Dominic Farnbacher in GT2. Working the car right now, that car that Dirk Muller qualified. As we take a look at our Michelin tire summary, 21 cars in this big field on the Michelins. Dunlop, though, is really starting to come alive. It's getting some very good tires, and it's getting recognized by the teams.
It really is, and a lot of these teams very happy with their switch over to the Dunlop tires, and their presence is being felt immediately throughout this field in all classes.
We were talking about Dominic Farnbacher, and at Mid-Ohio, he had fast lap in the class, and he is really starting to figure out these cars too. Very talented young driver, and at Mid-Ohio, it just seems kind of like Scott Sharp did. He really found it.
He really did, and look at those Audis trying to go the long way around the carousel corner. That is very tricky. It is not quite flat out. This one is, but you have to hit your marks. Look at the speed through there, about 170 miles an hour, now down into the fastest part of the racetrack. The Audi R10 TDI, 190 miles an hour, then hard on the brakes. Minimum speed there, 75, 66s around. This is Gilles de Ferran behind the wheel. It's not been an easy weekend for these boys. Problems with the car, with the handling.
Oh, and he's off track by a ways, and we are going full course caution as a result. Pits are closed. And this is going to be kind of interesting here, because one of the things that the Audi camp has been telling us was that they needed some yellows here, even with that extra fuel, and we can talk a little bit more about that, to be able to get to the end. And he went around big time, was in the middle of some of that GT2 traffic, and got into the gravel and may have even got into the barriers there. And there's the 54 Ford GT. Maybe that was part of the problem.
Yeah, I don't think they were together there, but talking to Simon Pagenaud this morning, he said the car's been very inconsistent in the fast corners. He said it suddenly pins the nose and the rear end is coming around on him. So he felt that they found something in the warm-up. We're going to see a good look here from the onboard shot from Gilles de Ferran. Or maybe this car was involved. Yes, he was. Gilles down to the inside. The 54 car there definitely had some contact with the left rear of Gilles de Ferran, and that was enough to turn him around.
Now you can see that tire on that left rear is absolutely collapsed at this point, so a little contact there. And I mean, that's a very quick section of track, turn 7, that fall away turn. You can see damage. The mirror's been bounced off the side of that car, so there's definite contact, and I think Gilles just probably surprised him as he was starting to turn in.
He did, but I don't think Gilles took any of the road away from Tim Pappas behind the wheel there. He dived to the inside, just went for the apex, and there was some contact, and that's unfortunate because that is one of the top contenders in the P2 category. First time this year we haven't seen either Gilles or Simon on the front row, of course, and this team trying to recoup from that massive pit fire that we saw at Mid-Ohio just a few weeks ago.
Boy, a very frustrating moment, because really at this stage, now, yeah, there's the damage to the back of the car.
See right there that the wheel was broken. Immediately sent that tire down as he turned into that fast right-hander.
And as you see here, we take a look at the onboard, you can see it says "Get Well Jonesy." Well, that was Keith Jones, who is the refueler, who was burned in that fire during that pit stop at Mid-Ohio. And the great news is the seriousness of his condition has been downgraded from serious to fair, and he is making very good recovery. And if you weren't watching, here was the incident at Mid-Ohio, and it was one of those things that happened, just a little problem with refueling.
Yes, it was. Now you see there the creep out. I spoke to John Ender this morning. Look at Jonesy there. He uses one hand on the hose and only one on the neck to pull it out. And they believe what happens is that's actually cocking the fuel neck as he's trying to pull it out of the car. That caused it to stick. He went to re-grab it again, but Simon was already on his way. Clipped Jonesy. He was on the floor and the eye developed.
I checked in with the DeFerrin Motorsports guys earlier today. They were really excited about this race coming in. The whole reason they came into the American Le Mans Series was that they wanted to do endurance sports car racing, and this was the longest race so far in the season for them. A lot of these crew guys and the drivers, of course, have done the 500-mile endurance races in open wheel, but this is one that they were excited about.
All right, well, a tough moment here, but again, it's all sort of minor to the big news of Chris Jonesy coming along so well with his recovery in Indianapolis. Want to say a big hello to him. I'm sure he's watching. And a 10-year veteran of ALMS and IndyCar racing. And Jonesy, get well in a hurry. We want to see you back. And we'll be right back as well. Are you fired up about all the racing twists and turns from this week at the Glen? Well, Dave certainly is. So jump online or grab the phone and give Dave a piece of your mind. Or if you're into bikes, how about his guest, Kevin Schwantz, 93 world champ and current AMA Red Bull Rookie Cup rider coach. Don't miss Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain tonight, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, only on Speed. Not a lot of speed on the course right now. We continue under the full course caution because of the incident involving this car, Gilles DeFerrin, the number 66 Panasonic Acura, and the number 54 Falcon Tire Ford, and he's limping back. Meanwhile, something we want to pass on to you because it's really going to play a role here. We don't have timing and scoring, and the interesting thing is, of course, the entire pit lane usually is covered by timing and scoring. They're not getting it either, so things are very, very interesting right now, and Brian Till down in the pits, that's got to be causing some consternation.
Guys, no timing and scoring down here on pit lane either. Thomas Blom, who calls the strategy for Flying Lizard. Without that timing and scoring, you don't know where the cars are and how much the separation is on the racetrack. How difficult does that make it for you to do your job?
Well, obviously we rely on the timing and scoring quite a bit, but we've got a few extra people, so we'll do it by hand. Happened to us at St. Pete last year, so it's not a big deal. It's early in the race. Hopefully they'll get it up. Obviously we rely quite heavily on it, but we'll manage. It should be okay. We'll just drag some of the guys, some of the engineers that look at data most of the day to help us with the following track and the overall leaders and other things like that.
Well, it looks like timing and scoring just came back up, so Thomas and the team will have another tool to work with down here to make their strategy calls.
Certainly makes it easier for us, mate. We were struggling a bit there for a few laps.
Well, you can see how quickly they went right to the monitors as well. And yeah, it just popped up, and there it is, the multiple colors, each denoting a different class on the timing and scoring feeds. And yeah, very welcome.
Well, it's so critical because not always do you identify when your competitors are making pit stops. So knowing how many laps they've completed, and also with the different classes, particularly when there's a caution, some of these classes can get split by the overall leaders.
Well, while we watch here in the 66 has made it to pit lane, one of the things we enjoy so much is when we bring in our Cub reporters, and they have been great. And of course, they always explore the most vexing of issues here in the American Le Mans Series. So without any further ado, here's Emanuele Pirro.
Ciao guys, I'm Emanuele Pirro, your Cub reporter. I'm going to take you around and find out some private things about my colleague racing drivers. Let's go. Okay, here we are with, what's your name?
Ron Fellows.
Oh, that's good. I thought you retired.
You know, hey, I'm always coming out of retirement.
Driving a Corvette, which is a kind of a hot car, do your socks smell after the race?
You know what? I'm one of those people that normally doesn't smell my socks, so I couldn't give you an answer on that.
Do your socks smell after the race or not?
Oh yeah, because I never take clean underwear for the race, just because for reasons that I think it brings bad luck. So I use, normally on the first day, I use a set of underwear, and then I hang it away, and then I use it race day.
That's good that we don't share the car together.
I never really smell them. Do you?
Yeah, I do. You have a shower normally, in the morning or in the evening, if you ever have a shower at all in the day?
In the morning and in the evening. I don't know what you are doing, but I have to have one in the morning to wake up, of course. And I have to have one at night, because after driving I'm sweating a little bit. so I have to have another one.
Oh, you're a very clean guy.
Normally both.
Every driver is so clean. I mean, I only have a shower a day, I have to be honest, and so far, everybody showers twice a day. I have to change my habit, probably.
I'm a big shower guy. I like a morning shower to wake up and an afternoon shower to clean off.
I feel more and more bad, again, because I have only one shower a day.
Generally, you know, I like that shower to wake me up, but then at the end of the day as well. So I'm using my water.
Both in the morning and in the evening.
I tell you, this is really killing me. I tell you, every driver, I only have a shower a day, and every driver is having 2 showers. This is really killing me. That's it for now from your Cup reporter, Emanuele Pirro. Ciao.
Well, I think Emanuele's like myself. We hate to see that hair in the drain after you've taken a shower.
So that's why you limit it to 1, do you?
Yeah, exactly.
Just because it's too hard on the psyche and the ego, eh? Oh, man, that's funny. Emanuele Pirro, one of the truly great personalities in this paddock, and a mighty fine driver as well. Big crowd on hand here and enjoying some great racing.
Hey, Greg, on this restart, really pay attention to the 2 Audis. Emanuele Pirro, we just heard him in that great piece. He's not happy in the race car right now. He was on the radio with the team earlier saying, Lucas put me off the road and into the grass. I am not happy with the way he is driving right now. Are we racing or are we going to be good teammates? So right now, Emanuele Pirro not very happy with Lucas Luhr.
Well, I think Lucas will be a good teammate until Pirro tries to go by. But the key for these drivers is the pickup. There's been really a big problem. By pickup, we mean those little balls of rubber that get scrubbed off the tires and lays offline. And now you'll see the drivers, as we get ready for green, really working these tires. What Lucas Luhr is trying to do is to scrub those tires clean, get them down to the clean contact patch that is necessary to go racing. So even when we see the green flag, we may still see some of those drivers weaving down these straightaways to clean them off.
How about that shot? Is that not absolutely beautiful, classic road racing right there?
It's a beautiful corner. It's really high speed right there where the pace car is, fastest part of the racetrack, and then about 70, 80 miles an hour through there, then back on the gas hard.
Well, before we get back to green, Jamie, any updates on the number 66 Acura?
Well, you mentioned, Greg, that it made it back into pit lane. They have changed pretty much every piece of bodywork other than the side panels on that car. They didn't seem too concerned, though, with the mechanics of the car. It looked like it was all cosmetic. They're replacing the pieces and hoping to get it back out. This is a disappointing day for these guys. They were hoping to prove that they still had it after that incident at Mid-Ohio.
Thanks, Jamie and Calvin. As you pointed out, it's just been a tough weekend for them.
It really has, but the learning process continues. They're not going to park it, and here we see the Audis getting ready for the green.
Up that long climb, and the green flag flies. We are back underway.
Look at Pirro.
Oh, he is close.
He's in the draft, and look at Diaz and Montagny doing the same thing, side by side.
Diaz had got around, but Montagny got him back, and there is the march toward the front now. The number 7 of Duma trying to move up as well. They were stunned a little bit in qualifying by what unfolded, and right now their mission is just to get back into the fray. That pass should put them up into 3rd in the P2 class, 5th overall.
And there's a lot of pressure on all of these Acura teams, all 4 of them. They're vying for who's going to get this potential. No word out in confirming it. And here we see the lead battle. The Audis down into 5. Pirro, it looked like, touched the outside curb there, trying to set up Lucas Luhr as he defended the inside. We heard that Pirro wasn't happy, and Lucas Luhr's car does not look happy. As we get ready again, that pickup could be the issue.
Through turn 7, where DeFerrin had his moment, downhill braking just like turn 5, into turn number 8 here. Not quite as snug a corner, but nonetheless, those downhill braking zones are difficult to master, and now the carousel. What a corner. And in talking to Marcel Fessler, well, more on him, a new driver to the Audi R10 ranks here this week, and he said that is the most important corner on the track because you can lose so much time there or gain it if you're really good through the carousel.
There you see it absolutely flat out. It's such a quiet engine, that diesel. And that's what Marcel Fessler had to deal with when he drove this car for the very first time. He did a short test over in Europe at Lausitz, and now he's teammates to Emanuele Pirro, one of the lead prototype cars in the series. What a day for Fessler when he gets behind the wheel.
Pirro has been awfully quick as of late. I mean, I believe at Lime Rock, he had built up a 20-second lead. I mean, he was brilliant there.
Guys, you talk about the different setups on these 2 Audis, and talking to Emanuele Pirro earlier today, he said our engineer takes a more basic approach. It's not quite as edgy a setup as the number 2 car, which means ultimately it may not be as fast on the perfect lap, but is a more consistent car. So right now on the long runs, we'll have to see how that number 1 car comes in and how the setup on Pirro car helps him to try to catch up with Lucas Luhr.
Well, you want a comfortable car for 4 hours of racing, I would think, and one that certainly seems to be pretty quick right now. Pirro right there. Boy, he is on it right now.
And Lucas Luhr's car, he's really bottoming out into these braking zones. We saw some splashes off the skid blocks. He defends the inside once again. Did the same thing the last lap. Pirro will tuck to the inside. Can he get the power down? Lucas Luhr defends again, moves to the middle of the road. This will get the Audi camp scratching their head. They did a similar thing here last year, and that cost them the overall victory.
He is just relentless right now. Pirro is. Certainly looks to be the quicker of the two cars.
Well, we talk about that setup. Brian mentioned a different aero setup. Pirro's probably got a more consistent setup. Lucas Luhr is probably ultimately quicker, but when you get back to green flag racing after that long caution period, it may take a little while to come in.
Through the kink, what a corner.
5th gear through there, just 5 gears, no lift on that Audi. Maximum speed, over 300 kilometers an hour, close to 190 miles an hour, then hard on the brakes, very bumpy here for Canada corner. Look at the change in surface. ASR, as they call it on the Audi, the traction control will be kicking in.
Through 13 and then into the right-hander, turn 14, and the long run up that hill, a big climb. Over 150 feet of elevation change up to the start-finish line, and Luhr now has been able to open it up just a little bit here as he is starting to drive it away. We want to remind you, for the first time in American Le Mans Series history, qualifying at Mosport on August 23rd will be streamed live on AmericanLeMans.com and SpeedTV.com, featuring speed coverage and series radio commentary. Don't miss it on August 23rd at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Log on to AmericanLeMans.com or SpeedTV.com, and please let us know what you think. We're excited about this one. Well, with Luhr able to put a little bit of a gap between he and Pirro, things stabilizing at the front, but great battling going on in all 4 classes here at Road America. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series Generac 500 is brought to you by Audi. The truth is out, it's powerful, and it's available at your Audi dealer now. Audi, truth in engineering. And by Mobil 1. For almost any extreme, choose Mobil 1, the world's leading synthetic motor oil. That truth currently running 1-2, but somebody off there in the carousel. That is the number 40, the Pilati Doran Ford GT40. That car is well and truly off in that carousel. I mean, you get to the outside of that, it's all gravel, and he is right over to the tires.
David Murray behind the wheel, and 32 minutes in, I would expect to see some pit lane activity here. There's no way David's going to pull himself out of that kitty litter by himself. So key will be pit lane is closed, so the guys have to wait before they can see pit lane action.
Take a look and see what happened with Dave in the carousel.
Oh, prototype down to the inside. He gets clipped. It looks like 66. De Ferran again. So that's 2 of those Fords that De Ferran has been into today. And he talked to me at Mid-Ohio about being patient with these GT2 cars, getting to know his competitors in the paddock. So he talks to them, establishes a relationship. But right now, must be sheer frustration for Gilles De Ferran. Shaking his head there. You can tell from the body language. He's not happy. They can't learn when the car's in pit lane. You got to be running the race car.
Let's go on board with De Ferran's. See that angle of it, Cal.
There we see we're coming down into turn 8. Big gaggle of cars up ahead, so David Murray has probably got his eyes focused on that. And there you see, De Ferran thought the window was open for him to drive the car through. It wasn't. Dave tucked down to the apex. Didn't realize that Gilles De Ferran was there. And it's very hard in those big body GT2 cars with that big rear wing to really see clearly. When you're transitioning and changing direction, you suddenly lose sight behind you for a moment, and the P2 cars accelerate so much quicker there.
Well, and it looks to me like those GT40s also have a much smaller greenhouse. I mean, it's, you know, it's like chopped almost, so there's not a lot to be able to look through anyway. to start with. And to make matters worse for de Ferran, aside from the 2 bits of contact and the long stops to fix that, he also had to endure a 1-minute stop and hold because one of the supervisors who could be over the wall and helping the crew in terms of running the pit stop started to work on the car in that first stop, and he got held there too. So boy, he must be just boiling over.
He really will be. And I was talking about it before we went to the break, and then the Audis were battling for the lead, but the Acura teams, all 4 of them, are really vying for who may get this potential P1 Acura deal for. So performance week in, week out is critical. We understand the favorites are de Ferran Motorsports, and but the Highcroft boys are having such a tremendous season. Maybe they'll see some P1 action next year as well.
So as we just continue this long stop unfolding at this stage, one of the things I mentioned a little bit earlier was that the Audis were a little bit concerned, even with that extra bit of fuel in the tank, about making it in 4 hours on 3 stops. Brian, any updates now with this early yellow again?
Well, it's definitely going to help them, Greg. They've got the 4 extra liters, but if you look at their fuel cell, it used to be about this much higher. Anytime you add height to these, you get better flow down through the rig, and it happens a little bit faster. They've got their extra 4 liters, but the fuel cell or the fuel rig has been lowered a half a meter here. That's put it back at the height of all the other teams. So now that extra 4 liters is going to take even more time to go in. So they're appreciative of the extra fuel in the tank. It just takes longer to get it. This early yellow, it may indeed help them, Greg.
And the reason, as I understand, Cal, that tank was raised originally is because the diesel is a much thicker fuel, much more viscous, so it was tougher to get the flow.
Exactly. So they really were trying to equalize all of the teams in terms of how long you could run on a full fuel load before you needed to pit. Now, everyone thought with the diesel technology, the economy there, we needed to take away 10%, and hence 81 liters versus 90. And then the reality was, when we started to see the racing develop throughout last year, the Audis had to come in so much earlier than the Penske Porsches. It was really a strategy deficit that they had. So this is the first race. The rules dictated there would be no performance balancing before the halfway point in the season. This is race 6 of 11, so they've made that change. They've been given half of it back. They've got 85 liters, but as Brian said, at the same time, they've now dropped that fuel rig down. This is a gravity-fed fuel rig. It's not pressure-fed, so it will delay them on pit lane possibly 5 to 6 seconds more than normal.
And now 2 full course cautions, both of them relatively long. I mean, more than just 1 or 2 laps, almost up to the half-hour point. And now this is going to take a while to get this number 40 out of here. That is exactly what the Audis needed.
It really is. It gets them in the window, but it's all about when you see that last yellow or when you get to about an hour left, because it all changes. You suddenly get a yellow or maybe an hour and 15 to go. Everyone pits. The Audi's not going to be able to make it. So right now, it's early in this 4-hour event.
Well, fuel mileage is a concern for everybody, Calvin, all the way through down to GT2, because this racetrack is so fast. Like I said earlier, about 60 to 65% of the time, you're at full throttle. The Acuras have been very fast, but it takes fuel to make that horsepower. I checked with Duncan Dayton. He said, we're going to need yellows, about 12 laps of yellow to get to the finish on 3 stops. So these yellows not only helping the guys down at Audi, but helping the Acura contingent as well.
Here we see the 2 lead Acuras coming in. One of the Penske certainly has stayed out. You saw that yellow machine flash by. Look at Pirro. He's in race mode. We'd expect these drivers to stay in and double stint. The key will be, will they take tires or just fuel? And that is the championship leader, the number 7, Romain Dumas. Didn't qualify where we expected, but remember that new DFI engine, they expect superb economy. So Penske already rolling the dice a little bit.
Both Audis roll to a stop almost simultaneously. Lucas Luhr in the front car. Crew getting ready to do tires. The fuel has to go first. Remember, the engines have to be shut down in American Le Mans Series competition. Sasha Maassen in his Penske Porsche Spyder has pulled in behind them. So 3 cars lined up here at the far end of pit lane. The number 2 car will take tires, as will the number 1. A little bit further down pit lane, Jamie.
Well, the 15 and the 26, both of those cars came in. The 26 car, though, did do a driver change. Both cars did take fresh tires and filled up with the fuel.
And there you see one of the Acuras, the number 15 machine, here's Montagny. They both beat Pirro out. Pirro had a very slow pit stop, and there's the 6 car. Extra fuel flow, but it looked like both of the Audis went up in the air with the fueling being completed at the same time. There must have been a hiccup there on the tire change on the number 1 machine.
Now, Cal, I've got to ask you a question. You're sort of the strategist extraordinaire here. Doesn't this commit everybody you stop now to 4 stops?
Yes, it certainly does, unless we see a bunch of yellow where you really save fuel during that period. Remember, these diesel engines, they are pretty economical, but particularly so, and also that DFI Porsche when you're running under caution at partial throttle.
All right, it's a bit of a surprise to me. We'll try and sort things out when we come back here to Road America, as you see road racing at its best. Welcome back, everybody, to Road America under full course caution. Here are your class leaders. Romain Dumas in the P2, Penske Porsche, is leading, and also overall. Then John Field leads in P1. Oliver Gavin leads in GT1 in the CompuWare Corvette, and Dominic Farnbacher back in the lead in the Bell Micro Tafel Ferrari in GT2. And of course, under the caution, we've had ourselves a number of pit stops, and that's why things have been jumbled just a little bit. But you know what? Yesterday, at the end of the day, there was a very special event here. It was called the Tour de Road America, and it's a big bicycle ride to fight cancer. And there's a great side story in the Corvette camp. Doug Feehan, who's the Corvette Racing Program Manager, and driver Ollie Gavin, who's a marathoner, were throwing down, raising money for this thing, and decided they were going to have themselves a race. And as it turns out, Doug Feehan, as always, had some strategy secrets he was keeping.
Well, I've been spiking his food all day, and I've just been down to sort of check his bike out, and I think he's gone and got some super trick bit of kit. He spent thousands of dollars on it. I think his focus for the last month has just been on this bike race.
Well, you know, he thinks his biggest advantage is going to be this age deal. I wouldn't let that, okay? Just because he bears a striking resemblance to Billie Jean King doesn't mean he's dealing with any Bobby Riggs here. I've got a couple things up my sleeve. Matter of fact, let me just show you one of them right now. This is my partner, Sarah Binks. Let me tell you, she's highly trained and very skilled. Now, Sarah, when you see Oliver coming, I want you to show these guys exactly what we're planning on doing, okay?
Okay.
Ready? Here he comes. Go!
All right, as we take off here, they're neck and neck in the background. You can see that Chevrolet bridge. Medical crew behind them. Oh, Gavin to the inside. An aggressive, sweet maneuver. Feehan. Oh, this first hill's going to be a killer. Again, months and months and months of training by Doug Feehan. You see the doctor using a little bit of cagey drafting. But Gavin bringing it close to the pickup truck here, doing a little drafting off of us. Oh, Gavin making a move on the outside. Oh, what's that? Is that a bribe? Oh my gosh. Gavin looking to make a strong kick towards home. And Oliver Gavin wins the Lance Armstrong lookalike contest this year. Now, the most important thing to remember, this is all done for charity. And through the hard work and dedication and commitment of these two, a lot of money was raised for a good cause. So I think that being the overall prize for everything.
Thanks, guys. It's a great job. Well done, Doug.
I think it was clearly a question of training. I think Oliver's marathon regimen was certainly significant today. However, I think I purported myself very well for utilizing a Cabernet and Patron-based training program. So I'm quite pleased with my result.
Well, it was a great result, and Feehan did win the most money in terms of raising for that. And we are back to green here at Road America as well. That long caution in the cleanup for David Murray's off with contact with the 66. And as we guessed, maybe as he had done an earlier pit stop, found himself cycled to third overall, wasting no time. John Field once again in that very, very exotic Intersport Lola goes to the lead in a hurry. We're going to go back and show you this from the chopper shot and watch Field launch. Third car in the screen.
Look at him, they're jockeying for position. Dumas brings him down very slowly, then he takes off, but John Field with that AER P1 power just immediately smokes him to the outside and heads down into turn one in the lead. Look at him stretch the legs there. Big smile on his face. He's such a fun character, and he really is a tremendous driver. I mean, I saw him this weekend in a restaurant. He said, this was my first real entry into motorsports with the Skip Barber School. He said, ever since I've always loved it, and now he's leading races in the American Le Mans Series. Quite a story.
Well, John Field, quite a driver and a cagey team as well. We saw him with such a good move at the beginning of the race. Why? Because they short filled. They were not full of fuel at the beginning of the race. They wanted to be light and fast. They were counting on an early yellow. They were light and fast. They got the yellow, and now John Field has the lead, but for how long?
He is out front, but we have a full course caution has been called again. Boy, a third one, and this is the Jean Richard creation of Autocon, and apparently it had stopped on track, and now it's underway once again, but too late. The double yellows are flying, and so we have another full course caution, and for John Field, that's going to make sure he gets to lead a little bit longer here.
He will, and this is a shame. I mean, Mike Lewis behind the wheel, first action he's seen since Le Mans. This team went over to Le Mans, competing in their first 24-hour event. That was a big thrill for those guys. And he said this car was really not well suited to Mid-Ohio, but he said after the first test session here this weekend, we really love this place, and this is what this car is designed for, the long, fast sweeps of Elkhart Lake, Road America. No idea as to what was the glitch, but you can see he's got some form of power. Whether he's getting full power, I'm not sure.
The crew thinks that it might be gearbox related at this point in time. He lost all drive. They said it's back under power now, but it doesn't feel quite right. They're going to bring him in as soon as they can.
Thanks very much, Jamie. And obviously, it sat long enough and was clearly in an area that was enough of a concern that the officials felt they had to go yellow. And it always confounds you a little bit, and then the car drives off. But legitimate problem, and he was able to find something there. And sometimes with these gearbox issues and the like, it's electronics just in the selection. And it may have he may have figured a way to at least sort itself a little bit. So third caution here in our first hour, and John Field leads overall, and sitting in second spot in the P2 lead, if you will, is Romain Dumas. There are the Corvettes, and it is still the number 4 Corvette leading, Ollie Gavin. A few cars separating it back to the second Corvette of the number 3 entry. And then in the GT2 category right now, because of these pit stops, the number 21 Panos from Team PTG and Tommy Milner is in the lead at this point. So it's great to see them. They've really been working hard at things here, and that car seems to be really starting to come good a little bit. A lot of aero changes to the car, and I understand a little bit of engine work coming into here at Road America.
And of course, a big switch on the 21 Panos for this weekend is they're back on the Yokohama tire. They switched to Dunlops for one event at Mid-Ohio, but they are back again, and there's a new generation of Yokohama tire here. Different compounds and construction, front and rear. And in fact, the front tire on that 21 car is a little bit narrow with a shorter profile. They've got Joey Hand joining the team. He raced last night over in Watkins Glen, flew in last night, saw some action in the warm-up this morning. And they really feel there's good things to come from this car. It's a little bit long in the tooth, but they continue to develop it. You can see the rear bodywork has almost like an Aston Martin rear deck to it now, which was debuted at Lime Rock. And that really cleans up the airflow to that rear wing on the Panos.
They've been working on it since St. Pete when they started to do some work to the front end of the car. Let's take a look at our leaderboard, the top 5 in GT2. And as I said, once again, it is the number 21 of Milner out front. We are back to Road America, and there's a great development going on in the American Le Mans Series. It's the Green Challenge, and the American Le Mans Series is working in partnership with U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Energy, and SA International to incorporate green racing principles, and they have created the Green Challenge, which will make its debut at Petit Le Mans, and it's basically a stratagem, if you will, of being the fastest as you can, the fastest in the race, but being the most efficient. And it'll be right here on speed, the Petit Le Mans, and you'll see the Green Racing Challenge, the Green Challenge for the American Le Mans, make its debut. It will be a full feature in the 2009 championship, and there are a lot of teams who are saying this is something else we can win, and I think it's a great program because it's going to show and showcase just how racing can help green technologies come alive. And we are about to come alive once again here at Road America. The pace car is in, and look at John Field. I don't know, Romain Dumas was just laying way back, and Field is gone. Here comes Dumas. That was interesting.
It really was very much a disjointed start there. I think Dumas was concerned more about the P2 cars, and here come those Audis blasting down to the inside, very close there, on board with Lucas Luhr.
On that last pit stop, problems for Pirro. The car stopped too close to the wall. Difficult to get the right rear change. That set him back further, and then on the restart, contact with another car from behind, and the crew was saying, Manuela, we need to know about the rear wing. Is it okay? These rear wings put hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of downforce down on these cars. If you develop a crack, that's going to give way in one of the high-speed sections of the racetrack, and it'll be a huge problem.
It really will, and talking to the technical engineers at Audi Sport this weekend, they just cram the downforce on. Even though this is a, like a long straightaway type configuration on this racetrack, that Audi has so much torque, it can pull that massive amount of wing. It really doesn't slow them down the straightaway remarkably, so they just keep piling the downforce on, and it's quite remarkable what this TDI engine can do. Here you see Lucas Luhr fighting at the wheel there, trying to get the power down off of turn 8. This is the long carousel corner.
And I believe this is Marino Franchitti in the number 20 Thetford Norcold Dyson entry that he is right behind.
Calvin, you talked about pickup earlier as you're right on board with Lucas Luhr. One of the things he said after qualifying, they put the lap in and they said, that's a great lap, the car won't go any faster, but they actually switched the tires from side to side to take it back out for another lap and wear some of that pickup off that he got coming onto pit road. So that's just how important the pickup is. They wanted to make sure that the tires for the start were as good as they could be. Anytime they slow down, as you alluded to, those hot tires pick up those little bits of rubber on the racetrack, and it may take a couple of laps around this very long racetrack before you have a good.
It really does, and that's the key point. You have to start the race with the same tires. You're allowed to change one, so 3 of the 4 that you qualify on, you're going to see the green flag with. That was what they were concerned about, and here you see the power of that P1 prototype car flashing by Marino Franchitti, taking 2nd place overall in the game, still remains the leader in the P1 class.
Meanwhile, let's check in on the goings-on in the GT2 category. And we had a stop. The number 71 Taffel Bell Micro entry did make a pit stop late in that last yellow. So 21 Milner right here leading in the Panos Team PTG entry, but behind him now, 2nd is the number 46 Flying Lizard entry with the orange window stripe, Johannes van Overbeek behind the wheel. And you're going to see right there, hard astern, is the number 62 Risi Ferrari, the Freescale entry, Jamie Mello driving that machine right now. And then the 73 Taffel entry, the Flamingo Hotel and Resorts Ferrari of Alex Figge right there as well. But Mello coming up very, very close, giving Johannes van Overbeek everything as we head then down this long run. And right there in the 5th spot in GT2 is Jörg Bergmeister as well.
And up ahead you see Mello looking down to the inside. Does he take it away? No, he's not close enough. He's putting the pressure on here. Johannes van Overbeek looking to the inside. Van Overbeek defends. Mello slices to the inside.
Boy, Johannes was just offline a little bit. Looked like he had to get to the brake a little sooner, and Mello pounced. That Ferrari incredibly well balanced and able to sneak through. Now, then you've got Mello up in the 2nd, Van Overbeek 3rd, but Figge and Bergmeister sit 4th and 5th, and you'd expect Bergmeister here, and here he comes all over the back of Figge, as Figge has caught the back of Van Overbeek here. Ooh, Figge way down to the inside on the exit there of the carousel, actually throwing up a little bit of debris. On board with Bergmeister once again, 4th. That's 5th, excuse me, 4th right in front of him.
Wow, you see that GT2 car get a little loose. That will get your attention through the kink. Back on board with Lucas Luhr. He's fighting his way back to the front. Up ahead of him is just traffic. It's John Field. He has just passed the 7 car of Romain Dumas, so he's now 2nd overall. Look at that GT2 battle, Ferrari versus Porsche. They're so evenly matched now, Greg. It seems like each week one makes a step forward in development and then the other one comes back. No one's really getting that big gap that we've seen over the last couple of seasons.
Now, as Jamie said, 6 races coming into Road America, 3 and 3 for Ferrari and for Porsche. Bergmeister has gone around Figge. He is now 4th and closing on teammate in the number 46 car, Johannes van Overbeek. There they are, really, the top 5 cars in GT2. It's a big blanket, but it's a blanket.
It really is, and meanwhile, up front, Tommy Milner, he did not pit with that PTG Panos machine, so he's got the lead, but he has a lot less fuel on board, but more importantly, more miles on those tires.
Jörg Bergmeister talking to the crew, wanting the crew to make sure that they're telling Johannes van Overbeek that he's behind and he's working his way to the front. So very cognizant of trying to hunt down that championship for Bergmeister and Wolf Hensler. They only led by 4 points coming into this race, and every point is key. Their bonus points for these longer endurance races, these 4-hour races and plus. So right now the points very important. Bergmeister wants that championship, and he always runs well at this racetrack, Calvin. He already has 4 wins here in the GT class.
Well, Brian, you were absolutely spot on. As you were talking about that, you could see through the windshield, you could see Van Overbeek point Jorg to the left as they were heading down into turn 5, and he braked a little bit early and let Jorg through. So very, very aware of that indeed.
You mentioned the tires on that Panos. You did say earlier they switched to Yokohama. When they ran here last year, these Yokohama tires performed perfectly. It was their best running so far, and then today it's the first time that they've led. I spoke with Joey Hand. He hasn't been in this car since the beginning of the season. He said the changes are just astronomical. It is so much more fun to drive. It feels like you're driving the car and the car isn't driving you.
All right, well, right about now, it is Mello driving by. He got a great run through the kink, knifes underneath Tommy Milner, and picks up the lead into Canada Corner. Milner right there, I mean, on that deck, but nonetheless, Mello able to sneak through, and he just got through the kink incredibly quickly.
He really did, and Tommy Milner will be hanging on a little bit now. His dad will be very proud of him. Tom Milner Jr. done a tremendous job. Ran for Rahal Letterman last year, driving one of the Porsches that we're on board with now. Similar machine. But those Yokohama tires really have always performed well here at Road America. Long straightaways gives them a chance to cool down a little bit.
So a change in GT2, Mello now in the lead. John Field continues to lead P1, and overall, absolutely great run for the Intersport team here at Road America. Thursday night, get wrecked on speed. Ride shotgun with the crew who cleans up the ugly mess left behind by Chicago motorists. No job is too tough for O'Hare Towing. Wrecked, life in the crash lane. Back-to-back episodes Thursday night beginning at 10 Eastern, exclusively on Speed.
We nearly had a wreck right there. Look to the inside down into Canada Corner. John Field got balked a little bit going through the carousel. And you just got to wonder about the perspective of John Field. I mean, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the establishment. He says, I'm here to race. He really got into an argument on the podium at Salt Lake City with some of the Audi drivers. I think it was Frankie Bieler went up to John. He said, John, if you drove a little bit more respectfully, you'd do a lot better. John said, I don't care about that, buddy. He said, I'm a businessman. I enjoy my racing. I'm running quick. You run your own race. And right now, Lucas Luhr's got to think about that.
One thing about John Field, you know, he really started driving. It was an IndyCar series for older Indy cars. Is where he got into some really fast stuff and immediately excelled. I mean, he'd been a standout in the Barber Pro Series and the like, but he got into those cars and went, you know what, I can do this. And then he started to bike. He had Lola Judds and the like, and was just fast. And whenever John was up in the front couple of rows, you knew he was going to go for the lead and go early. And he is a driver that simply loves to go fast. And I think, you know, Bielan can go up and make comments and everything, but John takes tremendous pleasure in taking it to the establishment, as you said. And once again, though, he gets held up. That's through turn 7. And this time, Luhr wasting no time. Knifes down underneath. Now let's see if Field has an answer, but Luhr covered beautifully. But that was twice in fairly key areas that John got pretty well held up. But the favor may be returned here.
This is
Luhr
tough.
trapped. Field, we've seen some good top end. Now Luhr ducks underneath. And Field gonna go for it into the kink. No, that was smart for him to back out of it here. Unbelievable. And because of both of these guys getting held up a little bit, Calvin, Pirro joining the mix.
Well, they were jousting there at 170 miles an hour, Greg. You have to be brave, and Pirro has taken advantage. He has now closed the gap. Lucas Luhr was very careful around that 54 machine. When you get out wide in the carousel, there's not much grip out there. He had to wait, and John Field was ready to pounce.
Well, we saw it happen to James Weaver in the carousel trying an outside pass a couple of years ago. Meanwhile, the number 3 Corvette in, and let's get down to Brian.
Jan Magnussen out, Johnny O'Connell getting in. This team already beginning to test some aerodynamic devices for Le Mans in 2009. So this team always looking ahead, and that's good news. That tells us that they're thinking about Le Mans in 2009. They're planning on going, and that's good news for all the Corvette fans. The fuel is in, 4 new Michelin tires going on, driver change is done. And a lot of times with this Corvette team, this is the race right here in pit lane. Cars so evenly matched on track. It's the crew that does battle in the pit.
Well, they always work hard to beat one another within that team because that was really raises the bar.
You got to hammer this lap. Cold tires. Should have clear.
Danny Binks there saying you got to hammer this lap, you got to take advantage. Remember, you're on cold tires. They've been working with wing angles, ride heights, the rake of the car, which is the angle of the chassis front to rear, to really try and find out what makes this car tick on the high-speed nature of this racetrack, which will then translate to Le Mans. Very similar circuit over in France.
Danny Binks, that was his daughter that Fian was in cahoots with there, wasn't it? Okay.
Cute little girl.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, watching field, still second overall. There is third overall. It's P1 cars now, 1, 2, 3 in the overall order. Dumas in the number 7 Penske Porsche entry as Pirro sneaks by one of the GT2 cars heading into the kink that always gets your attention as they come through. And look at the scrum these guys are running into down in the Canada corner. Lure trying to make it 3 abreast. I think he may have got top.
The 44 machine there just cut across. That's Darren Law through the shadows. They're so difficult to see. Think of rush hour traffic on your way home, but times the speed by 3. That's what it's all about here.
It looks like, all right, down the front straight now into some clear traffic. Field in that mess was able to hang on to his second overall spot, but Pirro is there. He's coming around now. Pirro looking at the back. Meanwhile, Lure down underneath the 46 Porsche into turn 1. Let's go back and look at what happened down there in turn 12. I'm not sure. Maybe it was just bumping the curb, but it looked like Lure may have been a little tap.
Well, he dives down to the inside of the Ferrari. The Ferrari holds his line, and Darren Law just never saw the Audi. He was way across on the left side of the road. Lucas was down on the right side, and just very tight quarters indeed.
And then threads the needle right to left through the two of them. Let's go on board.
You see the Ferrari pinches him a little bit. He holds the line down in the corner. Then watch Darren Law come from the outside. Very close. Darren Law's had a busy weekend, and Lure immediately back on the attack. You don't rest. You have a moment. You're still back on 100% commitment.
I don't think what I saw was contact. I think it was just Lure hitting that inside curb with a good clout, move the car around a little bit. But then that thread the needle move from right to left between the two, splitting them. Unbelievable here. And we continue to watch here. By the way, while we were enjoying that bit of action, the number 4 Corvette did make a stop as well. So both of the Corvettes now have completed pit stops and are fairly much in sequence once again as we go back to the action here at the front. Lure in the R10, sweeping through now. He's like in this view of Canada corner, I think, a lot better. Still Field in second. And look at Dumas, and all that traffic is closed right back up on the tail end of Pirro. This is the battle for third overall. Remember now, Dumas in the P2 category is the leader in that class, but looking at an overall position change.
He is, and remember, he did not pit yet today, so he's got a lot of laps on those tires. And more importantly, how much fuel does he have left in the tank? We're about 1 hour and 15 into this race right now. Normally, those guys run about 1 hour to 1 hour and 5, but we're talking about this new DFI engine in that Porsche Spider. It gives you much better fuel economy. Talking to the competitors, Acura this weekend and Audi, they don't have a good read on how far these yellow machines can go today.
Well, one of the things with that direct injection, aside from the general savings in fuel of about 5% over a normal injection engine, is they told me when I talked to those guys, they said that when they're under caution, the direct injection allows them to lean it out and they get a minimum of another 5% savings. So all these cautions we've had been playing right into that car's hand, and Dumas sitting in maybe very good position right now. Now, we'd like to tell you to please check this out. View some exclusive video content from the American Le Mans Series and SpeedTV.com. It is truly the most comprehensive video coverage in series history, both on the track and off. And fan video submissions are always welcome. That's at AmericanLeMans.com. Check it out, submit your videos, and let us see what you're seeing from your perspective. We are now 1 hour and 15 minutes into this 4-hour Generac 500. Welcome back to the Generac 500, 7th round of the American Le Mans Series here at Road America. It is the Audi out front. Lucas Lure continuing to lead overall. And we have the number 21 is in the pits. Jamie.
That's right, the 21 car came in. They are doing a driver change. Joey Hand now getting behind the wheel. Tommy Milner helping him strap in, fueling the car. They are going to put on a fresh set of Yokohama tires. They were hoping that they were going to get another caution. That's why they didn't pit in the first run of cautions, thinking there would be another one soon after and they could get ahead. Did not play out that way for them today. The car is going up on the jacks. Fresh set of the Yokohama tires going on right now. Joey Hand's really excited about this race today. He loves racing at Road America, and with the improvements on the car, he thinks it's going to be fun.
Well, what a day they've had. As you mentioned, Jamie, this is the first time they have led this year. Meanwhile, our second overall and fourth overall machines are down pit lane, and for Dumas and that DHL Global Mill Penske Porsche, Calvin, amazingly, an hour 18.
Nice and smooth.
Hour 18 in, it's their first stop.
It is, and you hear him being talked to on the radio, nice and smooth. The 21 has a problem down there, Jamie.
Joey was trying to get the car started, but the car will not fire up. The crew has the doors open looking in right now. Joey has driven this car before, so he knows what to do, but the crew is not sure what's going on. Brian?
Down at the Penske pit, Romain Dumas stays behind the wheel of the Penske Porsche Spider. Fuel going in. I'm sure they'll take tires as well a little further down pit road. John Field has climbed out of the Intersport. Lola Clintfield taking over driving duties there. So they came to pit road side by side. We'll see which one can get out quicker right now. A great pit stop here. Dumas shaking his head in the car going, let's go, guys. We've got to go. The fuel is in. Tires going on. Cars down. Dumas away.
The crew has now, at Panos, has now plugged in a computer. They think the battery on the car might be dead, which is why Joey is not getting a fire. A lot of head shaking around here. They're still trying to figure it out. And the car is fired. They're shutting the door. Joey is off.
Well, that's a little curious there, because normally you're not allowed to have any ancillary things plugged in and get life in one of these things, so there may be a penalty for that. I'm not sure, so we'll have to wait and see. But the good news is he's back underway, and I'm sure we'll see some great speed from Joey Hand here today. 37 and the 30 in pit lane at the same time. The two Intersport cars, identical machines. This 37 is the newest car on that squad, brought from the Cytosport team. There's John's young son, Clint, behind the wheel. He has a turn of speed as well, very competitive.
Map 1.
But remember, as they're telling him which fuel map to go to, which engine map, they pitted at the same time as Dumas, a much longer stop. So you have to wonder if there wasn't some problem there. The 30, the team car, in only its second race in the championship with Ryan Lewis and John Faulkner and Gregor Fiskin for this race, in because it had a long drive through the gravel trap at the carousel, was able to continue. So they're no doubt cleaning some stuff out of the car.
Guys, what you just saw was the difference between a Penske organization and the Intersport team. The Intersport team is full of heart, but it's not full of people. Very small group of guys down here trying to do these pit stops and keep up with the big boys down the way. No problems down here at Intersport. A routine pit stop, it just takes a little bit longer when you don't have all the resources that Penske Racing has. But still, what a great effort by John Field in that opening stint.
It really was. Tremendous effort from that small team, and they see Clint fighting to get those tire pressures and temps up. But the Penske boys, the reason they're quick is they have all the tools and they work hard. Every day at 9:30, the over-the-wall gang, as they call them, go through a workout routine in their shop, and twice a week they practice the pit stops in the shop as well, and practice makes perfect for these boys.
Yeah, resources are important to run at the very top level. Speaking of these boys, this is Sasha Maas in the number 6 entry, the team car. But leading now after the stop by Dumas is the number 15 Lowe's Acura of Luis Diaz behind the wheel. We hop on board with Luis at this point, coming through 13 up into 14. And this is a car that has had pace. And at Sebring, it actually finished second overall on the track, then had an unfortunate DQ because of failing a post-race tech situation. It's had speed, but it's just had some horrific luck. But they've been very quick as of late.
They really have. Had their first podium of the season at the last round at Mid-Ohio. And as you mentioned, Greg, finished second on the road. A tremendous run at Sebring. Sebring is such a rough racetrack. Actually broke the airbox on the chassis. You see that little air intake to the side of the driver's head there. And after the race, they have to do a stall test where that is plugged. And when you plug that hole, it's supposed to shut the engine down. There's a crack in the airbox, which would mean that theoretically you could suck some more air in throughout the engine and get more power. That's illegal, and they immediately got turfed out. So that's a bitter blow to that team in round one of this championship.
All right, and in the early going here, we saw an absolutely and classically spectacular drive from John Field. Brian?
John Field just climbed out of the Intersport. Lola, John, you got a big smile on your face. Is there anyone on this pit road that loves driving as much as you?
No, that's what I come here for. I really enjoy it. My wife and Taylor, my kids all support me in it. And it's just a lot of fun. I mean, this crew's put together a good little privateer car, and I try to drive it the best I can to move it up front.
And you don't care about the big boys, do you?
No, it keeps them on their toes, you know. They're fighting for a job. This is my vacation.
Great job, John. Excellent, excellent stuff.
He is fun to watch, too. That's the thing. I mean, he'll throw it around. He will do whatever he needs to do to get the pace out of that car. And he is spectacular to watch. Now, getting back to what we've been following up on here in the P2 category, talking about the number 15 Lowe's Acura and its great run. Of course, with Dumas' stop, other cars as well on board again with Diaz. And the second place car right now is the number 9 Patron Highcroft entry, David Brabham behind the wheel. And this has been the car that, you know, for all of the resources and everybody expecting everything coming out of the DeFerrin camp, which is a great program, this is sort of the little team that could. And when Duncan Dayton decided we're going to try and go after a factory effort, and Acura said, all right, we'll give you a shot, I'm sure Acura is incredibly pleased with the results this team's been putting up.
Well, they put in great results. Remember, they've got an overall victory and a class victory this year, Greg. And on that first stop, when they came to pit road under the yellow, they did not take tires. So as this stint wears on, David may find the grip on those Michelins going away because they did double stint them. These yellows, though, have been good for this team. Remember, we said they were going to need about 12 laps of caution in order to get this car to the checkered flag with 3 stops. So with the cautions that have flown for them, perhaps that's good. They did elect to come to pit road. That's changed their strategy a little bit. But right now, this 9 car and the Acura team, Highcroft and Patron, looking good.
And speaking of looking good, a tremendous battle behind the number 9 entry for the next spot. And look at Marino Franchitti. Monteni had made the pass, and Marino gets back underneath and gets around once again. These guys are absolutely going at it for position here. Just a great piece of driving by Marino.
It really was. He responded well to that challenge. In fact, there's Jeremy Rossiter now, Greg, who just jumped in the 26 machine, making his debut for AGR. There's really been kind of a changing of the guard here, AGR, in the recent rounds. Of course, Christian Fittipaldi and Brian Herter started the season. Then we saw Marco Andretti on board with Frank Monteni. We saw Matos in the car at Mid-Ohio, and finally we've got someone I think we'll see more action from this year. Jeremy Rossiter has been in the Honda family since '05. He's been a test driver for their Formula One teams, and look at Brabham now feeling the pressure. Brabham is feeling the pressure from the Porsche there, Marino Franchitti. Started from the back of the grid, had a spin in qualifying, flat spotted the tires. He is on a charge.
Well, and maybe, as Brian alluded to, maybe those tires just not offering up the stick that he needs right now. Franchitti is flying, and Rossiter coming up hard astern right now. And of course, traffic always plays a role here as well, and that may have caught Brabham out just a little bit. You can't make the people just disappear in front of you. And once again, Rossiter thinking about it here, but couldn't quite make it work. Meanwhile, in the P2 category, Diaz leads, Brabham second, Franchitti third at Road America. The brats are on the grill. You can smell it in the air. I love coming to Road America. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series Generac 500 is brought to you by Mobil 1. For almost any extreme, choose Mobil 1, the world's leading synthetic motor oil. And by Audi. The truth is out, it's powerful, and it's available at your Audi dealer now. Audi, truth in engineering. Just past an hour and a half complete here at Road America in 4 hours of action in the Generac 500. There is your overall race leader and the P1 class leader, Lucas Luhr, in the number 2 Audi R10 TDI. And he is opening the margin up. He is now almost 15 seconds in hand over teammate Emanuele Pirro as we hop on board with Lucas.
Well, he's had a couple of week breaks since Mid-Ohio, but he hasn't been rested. He's been in Spain doing PR duties and is in fact in Australia, drove the R8 road car down at Phillip Island, and he said, I was having a great time until I came up over a hill and there's this massive bird in the way. He said there was no way to change direction. Literally destroyed the side out of one of those beautiful new R8 road cars. So he said that was a moment, but he said what a racetrack. Down in Australia just for a couple of days, and here's his teammate chasing him. And Manuel Pirro, I don't think he's driven any better than this year, Greg. He really seems to be in a groove, has a great rhythm about him when you watch this car around the racetrack with Pirro behind the wheel.
Now, Lucas did say that was a very big bird.
A big bird.
It was huge, apparently.
I got on the horn to our Lee Diffie's from down under, of course, and he said it was probably a shrub turkey, but probably weighed about 40 pounds. So
holy cow.
That'll do some serious damage.
And that Phillip Island right on the water. Incredible facility. But you're right, Pirro, just spectacular. I mean, he really showed that, I thought, at Lime Rock when he just was so decisive in traffic, built that humongous lead. Just doing a superb job. And, you know, he too is now with his third different driver, co-driver this season. So, you know, obviously having somebody of Pirro's experience in these cars is a great way to bring in a driver like Fessler to sort of show them the ropes and see if they're capable of joining the team long term.
Well, there's really a changing of the guard at Audi. Of course, they signed this guy, Lucas Luhr, and Mike Rockenfeller recently away from Porsche, and they're looking for younger drivers. They realize that some of these guys, Biela looks like he may be out of the door completely, having run Le Mans maybe his last race of the season. But we've got the young guard now taking over, and Marcel Fessler, even though he's 32 years old, they believe that he may have some performance that's available to this team that they want to take advantage of.
Just to take a look in GT2, and there's a great battle going on third in the category right now. This is the Farnbacher Lowell's number 87, Richard Westbrook, who has joined the team a couple of races ago and is proving to be every bit as quick as his reputation preceded him, a double defending Porsche Super Cup champ, and he is trying right now to, one, fend off the number 71 of Farnbacher, but also he is moving up, trying to get around. He's in a battle for position with the 46, and he may have gone by him.
Oh, we see a Ferrari up ahead there, which is the number 61 car, which I think may be a lap down. It's currently driven by Robert Bell. He's making his debut with this team. He's run before. He ran with Tafel Racing at Sebring. So Robert Bell, one of the most dominant Ferrari drivers in recent years, the current FIA GT2 champion, so he knows how to wheel one of these big things. But Westy, his first visit to Road America, and all of the Europeans just love coming here. Reminds them of Spa, the Nürburgring, just these fast-flowing corners, elevation change. This is what the drivers really love.
It'll be interesting if Westbrook can get around the 61 Ferrari and get back on the tail of the 46 of Van Overbeek. They had a little bit of a coming together, I believe, at Lime Rock that affected things a little bit. So see how smoothly that goes here. But first, he's got to get by the 61.
And when he makes his pit stop, we'll see action from a third driver on the 87 machine, and that will be Dirk Werner. He is absolutely one of the fastest Porsche drivers in the world. Farnbacher Lowell's team is so impressed with young Dirk Werner, and they believe that he has a very bright future, hopefully with their team. They believe he's like a franchise player for that Porsche group.
I'll tell you, the problem for Westbrook getting by the 61 is the driver is a guy named Rob Bell, who is incredibly quick in these Ferrari 430s in the FIA GT and the Le Mans series that runs in Europe. He is a top flight driver there, and as you can see, he's not slowing them up. As a matter of fact, he's working through them. Bell very quick, running for two different teams in Europe in these cars, and exceptionally fast.
Well, Greg, not only are these drivers fighting with each other, they're about to start fighting with the elements. And what I mean by that, it's a beautiful day here in Wisconsin, but the sun is beginning to set on the run from turn 1 to 3, turns 5 up to turn 6, and turn 7 down into turn 8. They're facing due west into a setting sun. Already, Jörg Bergmeister has been on the radio saying, tell Wolf Hensler to put tape on his visor. He's going to need it in the car because the sun is already getting brutal as we head into those turns.
All right, thanks very much, Brian. And here's a good look, folks, as we're on board. And you can see how quickly these prototypes go by as they work through just incredible closing rates and then cornering speeds. There comes the P2 Mazda. But one of the things you can see is that when the prototypes go through, Calvin, as fast as they are, they can still seriously affect the GT2 battle when they get through and drive through. Meanwhile, the number 20, Franchitti, that awesome drive, he's in.
Marino Franchitti is in pit lane, and he is staying in the car. Bruce Leitzinger, his co-driver, just threw a fresh water bottle over the car and over the wall and into the cockpit for him. Marino loves racing at Road America. He says this track is not created in a laboratory like a lot of them these days. It's very organic. a very quick pit stop for that 20 crew, and Marino's back out.
There you see Butch Leitzinger clapping his hands at a great pit stop by the Dyson Group, and Butch is one of the best in the business. Spoke to him this weekend, and he said, I'm very impressed with Marino Franchitti. He's got a great turn of speed. We like the car set up the same way, and he's very passionate about his racing. And here comes the overall leader.
Full service.
Howden Gaines, the engineer, won his first Le Mans title this year.
Yeah, Matt needs to watch out.
Hour and 40 minutes approaching, so will Lucas stay in the car?
Get him out
Will
the
we
way,
see?
get him out the way.
Crew member in the way there. They need a clear entry to the pit box, and yes, Werner's going to jump in. If he takes it to the checkered flag, it's going to be a lot of work for him, Brian.
Will indeed be a lot of work. Both cars are in, and you saw Lucas kind of swerving on the way in at the #1 crew member, saying, get out of the way, give me a straight shot into my pit box. The routine stop taking place here for the 2 car. Marco Werner taking over. Marcel Fessler in the #1 car will get his first taste of competition in the Audi R10. Dr. Ulrich has said we need to rejuvenate our sports car program. We've already done that with Lucas Luhr, Alexander Prima, and Mike Rockenfeller. So perhaps Marcel Fessler could be the next key piece to that sports car puzzle. He will get his opportunity to do battle here today. Right now, the 2 car down, Marco Werner away while the 1 car continues its stop. Remember, it got to pit lane slightly behind the 2 because Luhr was in the lead. Fessler fires up the R10 and is gone.
Hey, Brian, I've got to ask you, when you reported earlier about what was going on between Pirro and Luhr and how Pirro was not very happy and now swerving at the 1 to make sure they get in, are we starting to see some Corvette-like competition between these 2 cars, which normally run so smoothly as teammates?
Well, Greg, I checked with Brad Kettler when that battle was going on earlier. I said, you're letting the boys play pretty hard today, and he said, we're about to put a stop to it if it goes any further. So, yeah, the rivalry, certainly it exists on the racetrack between all the cars, but in the pit lane and in the team as well.
Well, the pressure will be on Fessler now. He needs to keep, you know, a good clean run going here. Here you see Marco Werner struggling to get that car up to speed. It's a heavy machine, and before those tire temperatures come in, it's going to be a struggle for these boys. You got to be careful. So much torque with this Audi. When you put the power down, it will literally turn you around in a heartbeat. But the Audi boys certainly had a busy day, Brian.
Lucas Luhr just climbed out of the R10. Great job, Lucas, leading another race, but it wasn't easy in the beginning. And I think some of the most of the competition came from your teammate in the 1 car, Pirro.
Yeah, for some reason I had quite a lot of movement in the car the first couple of laps, so I was not able to brake. And then the first 2 or 3 laps I always had to close the door at Emanuele because I knew I can pull away later on when that is gone. So then we came in and we made a slight adjustment with the brake pressure, with the tire pressure, and that helped, so I was able to pull away.
I also noticed on the run into this last pit stop as you came in, kind of swerving at the other crew member saying, get out of the way, give me a run into the box. So the competition seems to extend to the pit stops as well.
I mean, we are here for racing, you know, and also the guys, they always have a competition between each other, so I kind of showed him a little bit, hey, move, otherwise I run you over.
Jamie?
The 16 car, the second of the Dyson's cars, is in pit lane. They're doing a little bit of a different strategy because these guys are doing a driver change. Chris Dyson is hopping behind the wheel. Now this is Chris's 60th American Le Mans Series race. The team, of course, is celebrating their 25th anniversary this year, so it's a big day for Chris and a big year for the team. Driver change is complete. The fuel's still going into the car. It doesn't seem like this stop is as quick as the 20 car stop at this point in time, but the car is going up on the jacks now. A fresh set of Michelin tires going on. Crew is doing a little bit of adjustment work. Chris Dyson is putting on a fresh wind strap. You guys mentioned earlier, I believe, that they saw something fly off of the 16 car from the 20 car's in-car camera. So Chris is now in the car with a fresh windscreen and is set to go.
Well, that has a huge effect on the buffeting of the driver's helmet there. It's a little tiny windshield. Sometimes they adjust that depending on the different drivers by just a few millimeters. The overall leader is in. 15 car, what a day for Diaz. He's done a tremendous job here. And Adrian Fernandez will hop in. And there you see one of the crew members assisting. You're allowed to substitute the driver getting out for one of the other crew members, so it becomes an additional crew member over the wall. And sometimes it's a little bit easier for those guys to see to strap the guy who's getting in the car securely in there.
And that promotes this car, the number 9 of Brabham, into the overall lead at this point. And again, that car using up those Michelins, but doing it very well. Completing the tire change now on the number 15 Lowe's Acura, as Brabham has taken the point, both in P2 and overall, but Marco Werner now leading in P1. Beretta leads in GT1, and the battle in GT2 is the Ferrari of Jamie Mello out front. No, the American Le Mans Series continues to lead the way in greening racing, if you will, and trying to develop new technology, showcase what can be done, performance still done very well. Well, the amazing thing is the teams are jumping behind it as well. 5 cars here are racing using the new cellulosic E85 fuel, which is based not on corn or the like, but on waste products. And it is just an absolutely great technology and being well used right here. Meanwhile, our GT2 leader is on pit road.
Well, this team really trying to get the results that they deserve from this series. Of course, won the big one over in Le Mans, the 24-hour race. Dominated things here last year, but just can't seem to catch a break. They've certainly had a lot of speed, but right now the 45 assumes the lead. So this Ferrari versus Porsche battle continues, but the Ferrari today seems to be led by this group, Risi Competizione. But Tafel Racing, don't count those boys out. They're right there in the mix as well.
Well, there's plenty of racing yet to go, over 2 hours. So strategy, there's lots of things that could yet develop. While we were in break, we also had some fairly key pit stops we want to update you on. First of all was the stop by, at that point, the overall race leader, number 9, David Brabham, came in and turned the car over to Scott Sharp, the Patron Highcroft entry. And we also had, as we hop on board right now with Scott Sharp, as he is getting himself up to speed on these cars. And then the number 26, the Andretti Green entry, had a big moment, and shortly after that, Rossiter brought it in. Here's the moment we're talking about.
Wow, that is a huge moment. That's coming out of the carousel. Unbelievable, about 150 miles an hour on the exit there, and he took it off the road and missed the barrier. That will give you a heart attack. I'm sure he needs to change your underpants on that one. That was huge.
Yeah, how he didn't get into anything over there. Yeah, he quickly stopped and said, I better turn it over to somebody while I gather my thoughts here, and hopefully those thoughts have been gathered. Jamie?
Yes, James is standing by, still in his fire suit, so I don't think the underpants were an issue. But James, a big moment, what happened?
Well, I passed Brabham about a couple laps before, and then I knew I had 6 or 7 laps till I needed to pit, so I tried to make a gap to him. The team wanted me to push because we've been saving tires, and I pushed a bit too hard, and all the teams I think are having problems with the front left tire here. It's always the first one to run out of grip, and I just used it a bit too hard on a few corners, and then when I got to the carousel, I got a lot of understeer in the middle of it, and I got on the marbles, and then I was a passenger, and I just had to try and avoid the wall, and thank God I did, because we were running a strong race, and the car seems really good. So
a strong race, yes, and it is your first American Le Mans Series race. What do you think so far?
Yeah, it's great. I love the racing. I mean, I had a really good battle with Marino Franchitti and Brabham, and we were in traffic, and that was awesome fun. That was really good.
All right, James Rossiter, scary moment or not, still having a great time today.
Oh, yeah, and it was spectacular scary at that. There is a look at Montagny now back behind the wheel. And speaking of spectacular, he has been, anywhere you go and watch this guy here at Road America, it's been amazing. I was watching him for a while down in Canada Corner. I've never seen a guy drive consistently that sideways and that fast through that corner. He is absolutely amazing.
Well, the team are very impressed with him, and prior to Tony Kanaan announcing his new long-term deal with the AGR IndyCar program, there were thoughts of giving Frank Montagny a run in the IndyCar. They said he is so impressive, we believe if we put him on the high-speed ovals, he'd be quick there as well.
And there is the number 16. Now that car, they had done a pit stop. Chris Dyson getting behind the wheel, but apparently started the car while it was still up on the jacks. An air hose was attached to it. And as you pointed out, Calvin, you can't have anything attached to the car when it starts.
There you see it. They're just topping up one of the fluids there. That's the reservoir there, and you see the wheels were spinning before he hit the deck. That is a no-no in these rules, so that is very costly. It costs you 32 seconds to just roll down pit lane at 60 kilometers an hour, about 37 miles an hour. It's a long pit lane here at Road America. That is a costly mistake for that team.
Yep, they had to stop. He had to shut the car off and then start it again to show it can start under its own power. And as you pointed out, that is a long penalty. Meanwhile, here comes your GT2 leader.
Don't forget the drink bottle. Make sure you hit your mark.
York Bergmeister bringing it in. We'll turn it over to Wolf Hensler. And as we talked about, Brian had said he was already on the radio telling Hensler to make some adjustments to his helmet to be ready for the sun. And there goes the 87 of Westbrook. The Farnbacher-Lowell's entry as a result takes the lead. Let's get down to Brian.
Routine stop going on as Wolf Hensler gets in the car. I've noticed that his visor is completely covered with tape. That's not so when he gets scared in the kink, he can just pull it down, but that allows him to adjust that visor up and down for the required amount of shade that he needs for that sun that's really going to be beating right through the windshield. The guys that drive these sports cars will tell you it is more difficult in a GT car because the sun on the windscreen after the oil and the pitting from the rocks and the dust really makes it hard to see. The guys in the open top cars really have an advantage. So Wolf Hensler fighting both the track and the sunshine right now. Routine stop, and they're down and away.
Well, this is going to be critical. We've got about 2 hours and 5 minutes to go. This will be a real stretch for these guys to do it on one more stop. They're going to need help. They're either going to run on a lean setting or get a little bit of help with caution.
One Corvette coming. One prototype, one event right by you now.
And information is the key. The drivers love to know what's going on. Where am I? What position am I in? What gap do I have? Where is the traffic? It's a real key component in terms of the overall team chemistry and everyone working on the same page. But 2 hours, 4 minutes for one more stop, that'll be a stretch. Talking to the team this morning, they said an hour was maximum. So they need help.
Meanwhile, in the P2s category here, we are on board here with Adrian Fernandez. Currently running third overall, but leading in the P2 category. And right behind him, you see the number 7 of Romain Dumas, that Penske Porsche, running that unique strategy, being able to go so long before they did the first stop, coming up on some GT2 traffic. That is the number 61 entry. And Fernandez swings by. Dumas coming by right now. That is 1-2 in P2. Third and fourth overall, heading down into turn 5.
We talked about the strategy. Remember, the 7 cars stayed out on that first caution period. Well, at this stage of the race, this is how it's shaken out. Adrian Fernandez is in front of the 7 car, and he has 23 minutes more fuel on board. So you have to say right now, the strategy of pitting worked out a little bit better, but you never can count out Penske. They have a lot of tricks up their sleeves.
And Dumas is the only driver who has been in the car from the very start as a result. So he's putting in his long stint obviously early. Now the driver cannot drive more than 3 hours, correct?
That's right. 3 hours is the maximum drive time for this 4-hour event. And speaking of a 4-hour event, there are bonus points available today. Anyone who finishes gets their normal points tally +5. Not a factor if everyone finishes, but if someone DNFs, it can be critical in the championship.
Jamie?
The 71 car has come into pit lane. Dominic Farnbacher is out. Dirk Mueller is in. Now on one of the restarts, they had a little bit of contact with the Panos. When the Panos went by him, knocked the mirror just slightly, but enough to make it wobble around. So the crew is planning on fixing this mirror on the pit stop. Fuel is still going into the car, so they cannot put fresh tires on until then, but there is a fresh set sitting by and waiting. This is a long fuel stop for these guys. The car is now up on the jacks. A fresh set of tires going on.
Pitted from second in class. Dominic Farnbacher doing a great job at the time of the stop in the Bell Michael Tafel Ferrari.
Used great pit strategy to win a couple of these events. They won at Mid-Ohio. A lot of the teams took the yellow flag and dived into pit lane. These guys waited for the wave by. That was critical.
Reset the fuel.
Tony Dow on the radio there. He was here for his first event way back in the late 70s. There's a lot of great memories here at Road America.
All right, so as a lot of action continues here up front, it remains the 2 Audis. Marco Werner leading overall. The biggest, fastest 2 nights on TV are on Speed. Wednesday night at 9:30 Eastern, it's Pink's All Outtakes, and Atlanta throws down one hot bash. Then on Thursday night at 9 Eastern, Pink's All Out Drag Racing is in Texas, where the stakes are bigger than ever. It's only on Speed. We're right on board with overall leader Marco Werner driving the number 2 Audi, but we have a great battle that is shaping up for the lead in the P2 category, and it is the number 15 of Fernandez leading. But look at the yellow. Penske Porsche has closed up. Dumas through the carousel here. Sketchy. Oh, look at Fernandez able to get by the vet. That'll help through the kink, but Dumas is definitely closing it up.
He really has a very fast race car underneath him, Dumas, so you have to wonder, will he be able to put any pressure on Adrian Fernandez and try and wrestle the lead from him? But the Acura chassis has really proven to be very fast here on this low sweeping racetrack. Look at that line through there. Great shot out of the back of Adrian Fernandez. So Dumas through 14 now will try and get on the power a little bit early. He should pick up the toe here, Greg.
Oh, and he got on it very strongly. This is the long climb up the hill. Traffic. Dumas is tucked right in, but the question is he going to be given an opportunity? Fernandez protects to the inside. Dumas moves to the outside. They are side by side, and Dumas deep into one and sweeps around the outside. That was an incredible move by Dumas.
Wow, total commitment there. He's got a slightly lighter car. Remember, he's got less fuel on board, but his tires are more worn. Here we see it from outside. Look at that move. Was clear of him in the braking zone, got on the brakes a little bit later, and just swept around the outside. Very similar to David Brabham's move for the lead at Lime Rock a couple of races ago.
Another look at it from the onboard here, and obviously Fernandez knows he's coming, trying to protect Cal.
Dumas picking up the draft there. Remember that new DFI engine. Look at the bob on Romain Dumas' helmet there with the buffeting, and he was totally committed. He realized he needs to get by and make some ground up. Strategy-wise, I think they're a little bit behind. He needs to run some very fast laps here now.
Now, is that part of a case where being on the outside there, when he got to the turn, Fernandez, now his radius in was going to be tighter. He had to slow down more.
Absolutely. He had a slightly wider radius to corner back on the normal line. Adrian couldn't take the corner at speed. We've heard there's a possible fire on board this 007 machine. They've had a troubled season. Certainly a beautiful race car. George Howard Chappell from Pro Drivers here this weekend to try and assist with this program, try and sort out some of the bugs.
Stay out, it's gone out. Gone out, stay out.
Oh, the driver loves to hear that. Yeah, the fire's gone out, man. Just stay out there for another one.
I'm on fire again on time. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, this car, I mean, this is the actual GT2 spec car. They got it right before Long Beach, literally did a shakedown test in an Aston Martin dealership parking lot. So they got into the...
Stay out, you copy.
They got into the season.
Yeah. Stay out. Johnny Cocker behind the wheel. Spoke to Dale White, who's assisting with the development of this program. You can see that flame there down on the left side. Now they changed their mind. They can see it on our monitors as well. Not sure if that's from the exhaust has got into some of the bodywork or whether it's a brake fire, but some kind of issue going on there. Talking to Dale White at Mid-Ohio, he said this car just needs a little bit more help. It needs a little bit more power. We need some aero help. We need a different rear wing, some more rear downforce on it, but it has a lot of potential. And he's very impressed with this young driver. He said he did a test with Pro Drive and was very close to the times of Darren Turner and Thomas Enger, two of the fastest guys in the business.
We do expect it from the radio calls now, as you said, they're going to pit. By the way, the number 3 Corvette also has made a pit stop. While we were covering that great battle for the lead in the P2 category, the number 3 vet was in, and Cocker probably very relieved now, knowing what's going on there, to be able to get into pit lane.
Such a long lap here. If you do have a problem, you've got 4 miles to get around. So if that thing starts to catch on fire as you just flash by the pits, it's a long way to bring it back around. So I think this is a good call by the team. They've had some damage this year. They're just trying to learn and develop this program.
Down in the Drayson Barwell pit, the crew is on the radio with Johnny. There's a lot of smoke pouring out from the underside of this car at the moment. They're going to try and do a standard pit stop, but right now the smoke is the biggest issue.
Well, Calvin, I'm thinking you're right. It was a case maybe of some body work from the exhaust igniting, huh?
Possibly. I'm not sure the exact configuration where it all tailors through this body work. There you see Johnny Cocker kind of waving the fumes away from his helmet. He's surprised he doesn't have the door open. Maybe the mechanics are in the way there for him to do that, but trying to get good clean air into that cockpit is essential for these drivers.
Oh, and problems for the 11 car. They have sort of defined themselves as the Bad News Bears. Just incredible bad luck for this team. Chris Hall behind the wheel.
See kind of a trail of something behind them. Now that goes beyond the car, so that's not it. Have to wonder if he's out of fuel. You've got the uphill climb there. If he was coasting and you get to that hill, suddenly you're not going to go any further. So 4-mile lap, that's a concern. And then you have an uphill into pit lane. You're not going to coast. Jamie?
Well, down at the Drayson Barwell team, they did determine that there is some tire rubber stuck in the exhaust system, and that's what was actually igniting on the car. So they put the car back down on the jacks, and they pulled out all of the rubber.
All right, well, that's obviously you get that buildup close to an exhaust head or whatever. It can certainly ignite. And for the number 11 car that we saw stop, they broke a half shaft at Mid-Ohio. They've had incidents that just been caught out. It has been a tough go, but that team just refuses to quit, as does the Drayson Barwell team. They continue to show up and do everything they can. Here are your leaders in our 4 respective classes. Werner continues to lead overall. One hour and 45 minutes remaining in this 7th round of the American Le Mans Series, the Generac 500 at Road America. You ride on board with Marco Werner, the number 2 Audi R10 TDI. And a little while ago, Calvin, we were talking about that Piro's been driving incredibly well this year, and certainly Lure's been driving very well, but I'm not sure that anybody in the Audi team's been driving as well as Marco.
He is remarkable. This is his 50th start in the American Le Mans Series, and he seems to go from strength to strength. And we see action for the 7 car on pit road. Brian.
Romain Dumas climbing out, Timo Bernhard getting in. 4 victories so far in 2008 for this number 7 Penske team. 2 of those victories overall. Right now, Timo Bernhard getting behind the wheel, and Bernhard has certainly no stranger to victory lane here at Road America. He's won 4 times, 2 in a GT car, 2 in a P2 car, so he certainly knows how to find his way to victory lane here right now. Routine stop, very quick. Little hang up on the left front, but nothing to talk about, really. Nothing that's going to keep him from getting back on track very quickly. But now a problem with the right front holds him up ever so slightly. Timo Bernhard out on track.
That was not a perfect pit stop by those guys. Those little glitches maybe cost them a second or 2, and that is critical.
Outside.
See the sister car flash by. Number 6 machine currently driven by Pat Long. So this is going to come down to the little bits and pieces, Greg. I mean, it's such
Absolutely.
I mean, those tenths of a second can be crucial.
You're on board with Pat Long, but that should put Frank Montagny back into the lead in the Andretti Green Racing Acura, the XM satellite car. Actually, Fernandez, then Montagny would be 1-2 in the class, so some very close racing, and those guys are not separated by all that much as well.
Roger Penske and Tim Cindric, who normally call the shots, are not here this weekend, so it's down to Ericsson and Schwartz out. Brian.
Well, you don't get him any fresher out of the car than this. Romain Dumas just got out. Romain, you look beat, long stint, but how's the car?
Well, the car was very good at the end. At the first stint, I saved fuel after the start. I mean, I was all the time saving fuel, but I pushed like hell, and it was working well at the end. I think, I don't know, I was alone with a different strategy, but I saw I was overtaking a few P2 cars. So, yeah, it was funny. I made my best, we will see.
Right now, with the sun beginning to set, how's the visibility on the racetrack for the prototype guys?
Oh, it's still okay. It's no problem. I mean, with the dark visor, you have no problem. And no, the traffic is very, very difficult. If you want to go quick, you have to take a lot of risk. And so it can be a trick for sure for the race here.
Well, Romain Dumas very tired as he gets out of the car, and this is a guy who's in great shape, but you can tell he's been working hard.
I was going to say he may have been fresh out of the car, but he wasn't fresh. That was hard work, but tell you, few do it any quicker than Dumas.
No, I think he's the most rapid guy on their squad. I mean, Timo Bernhard, you know, and this is not a criticism. I think he's a more complete driver. I mean, he's a bit more technical, I believe, but Romain Dumas, when it comes time to bury your right foot, he gets the job done. He is phenomenally quick.
Well, his outside pass for the class lead is proof of that. But Timo Bernhard, I think one of the things he's got is he has some discipline. when he needs it, and that over endurance race lengths, I think that's huge.
And I think some of it is just their driving style. Timo's a little bit smoother. Romain always looks dirty, always looked like he's in a hurry and being impatient, but I have to say over the last few rounds they have not been leading races like they typically do, and Romain has certainly displayed a lot of patience that you may not have expected of him. And that is critical to a championship season. They have a healthy lead. They cannot afford to throw it away. They have to think big picture. They have been used to scoring overall victories, winning a lot of races each season. Right now, the game has got a little bit tougher with these Acura boys.
Yeah, came in 28 points up on the number 9 Patron Highcroft entry, Brabs and Sharp in that car. So as you said, you've got a lead, but boy, one bad moment, one over-aggressive pass, and you damage the car and you park, that's gone. So the number 8 entry comes down pit lane, the BK Motorsports BP Castrol Mazda Speed machine, and that is Gerardo Bonilla behind the wheel. Looks like he's going to stay in for another stint.
Well, big news from this team recently that they're going to have that Lola Coupe available to them shortly. It's going to be delivered here within the next couple of weeks. They're going to test the program, and then in fact they're going to debut at Petit, so that'll be sensational to see that car here. Like fuel only there. So this team have switched to Dunlop tires as well. We talked about the amount of Dunlop teams in the series. This is another team who has made a recent switch and just gradually elevating this program. Bob Bark and the whole BK operation are really starting to up their game. Full support from Mazda, of course, BP on board. I think this team is going to go from strength to strength over the next season or two.
That was a very quick stop for that BK team, and I spoke with Gerardo Bonilla before the race, and Gerardo grew up in the Mazda family. He did the Skip Barber program. He's still a Skip Barber instructor, so he has a lot of laps here at Road America. He used to come here for a doubleheader every year growing up, and he was certainly excited coming into this race.
And I think they must have had a problem on the previous pit stop. We mentioned no tires going on board. It was only 9 minutes ago that they were last in pit lane, so I'd imagine that the team saw they didn't get a full fuel load on board and brought him back in. So he's teamed with Ben Devlin. He's won here before back in 2002. First year that the ALMS came to Road America. He won in what was then the P675 class, which is really what P2 has now become.
11th overall, 8th in class at the time of the stop. And one thing that everybody says in this class is they said in terms of the power plant in this car, it produces great power. It's obviously the Lola chassis. You see what happened last year when the Lowe's team ran the Acura and then made the switch to the Acura chassis, and it really came alive in that new coupe. Boy, that we saw how the performance potential of that car at Le Mans, and I think it's going to be very exciting when they show up, hopefully at Petit, with that car in that program. This is one dedicated team. As John Doonan of Mazda says, we never give up, and we have no intention of doing that, and that's great to hear. Here are your 4 class leaders. Werner leading overall, massive crowds, and in the car corrals here at Road America. Just about an hour and a half to go here in the championship at the Generac 500 to Road America. Marco Werner leading as he leads up the front straight, working through some of the traffic. We're anticipating the number 1 Audi, 2nd overall of Marcel Fessler, to make a stop shortly. But right now, Marco Werner has things pretty much his own way. Comfortable margin out front, and driving as well as Marco does, having himself just a phenomenal season. And boy, these guys have to be, they've worked hard certainly to get some of the overall wins in some of the tracks that aren't that well suited to this car. But with all the developments, you talked right at the very top of the show, Calvin, about being able to deal with the challenge of Peugeot and some of the aerodynamic, and of course Michelin with their tire work, making these cars a little bit more nimble in corners just out of pure grip. Just exceptional work. Meanwhile, here is the number 1, Marcel Fessler brings it in. He has been very quick, very impressive. Brian?
Okay, Marcel, we see you. Come in, nice solid. Hit your mark. Hit your mark.
Hear the crew on the radio. Hit your marks. This will be the first pit stop in competition for Audi and Marcel Fessler in his debut with the Audi team, the R10. Spectacular job. The crew very impressed with him. I talked to Brad Kettler about Fessler, and he said he's done a yeoman's job. He read the entire book on the plane on the way over here.
Had a list. Marcel, when you're done, Marcel.
Had a list of about 20 questions to ask when he got here, knew where every switch was in the car. He said, I can't even say that of some of my current drivers. So he's done his homework from the time he got in the car this weekend. He's improved every time. His feedback has been good, but Fessler has even been honest enough to say, guys, I don't have a good enough read on the car to give you great detailed information, so I'm going to rely on my teammate Emanuele Pirro to set up the car. So he's done a great job and a great debut for Fessler. Pit stop done. Refired and back underway.
Good clean start, that's what you're looking for. And you're talking about that 08 spec R10, lower weight, different body work, engine, suspension, everything's been looked at, Greg.
And optimized, you know that. Meanwhile, we are on board with Dirk Werner. That's the number 87 Farnbacher Lowell's entry, and boy, that was a nice piece of threading the needle as Patrick Pillet and the number 46 Lizard car sort of feinted left to try and dissuade him a little bit. Werner, having none of it, just stayed on it down the inside and picked up fourth. So a pass for position in GT2. Werner trying to work his way back up through the order here just a little bit. The 71 of Mueller, and you saw that car. That's the Taffel entry, not that far in front of these two, so good battle shaping up.
It really is, and I'm so impressed with Dirk Werner. He's a very impressive young driver. He said this place is unbelievable. He said that kink in one of these GT2 cars, it really gets your attention. Unlike the prototypes with high downforce for these GT2 machines, as he now approaches the corner we're talking about, it is very much a demanding corner. You have to hit your marks. You have to get the turn in just right, clip the apex, and then use all of the road as you see him on the exit. He said after the first practice, every time I went through there was more left on the table, but he said you have to respect the speed of that corner.
And then be mindful of, oh, like that, a prototype coming through. Boy, Werner turned in about, if there was anything between them, that was, I don't know if that was luck or pure talent to judge it that close.
Well, that prototype stayed there in the braking area for a long time. I don't think Dirk expected him to wait that long before he got back to power. He was concerned about leaving the door open for that Flying Lizard car to slide down the inside, tried to tuck it in too quickly. The 30 machine was not back on the gas, and he clipped him. Have to wonder about damage to the right front.
Let's go back and take a look. Now we're right on board with Werner in the number 87 as that prototype, the number 30, came knifing through.
Here we are coming down into Canada corner. Look to the inside. There's the prototype. Just clipped it. Didn't look as dramatic on board as it did from the outside.
Maybe, yeah, still give him a little bit of a tap anyway. Meanwhile, here comes the number 2, Werner, from the overall lead, heading down pit lane. We are now at hour 29 remaining in the race. Boy, it really puts in perspective how slow that crawl is down pit lane, Brian.
Well, they're definitely going to need another stop. You said it, just under an hour and a half left to go in this event. Werner in the car. I would imagine he'll stay in it till the checkered flag, and really, it's a championship for Werner that's on the line, but a championship and some history for Lucas Luhr as well. Luhr has 3 ALMS championships to his credit, 2 in GT2, 1 in P2 in 2006. If he and Marco Werner can win this championship in the P1 class this year, Lucas Luhr will be the only driver in ALMS competition to have won championships in 3 different classes. David Brabham has won races in all 4 classes, but Lucas Luhr would be the first to win championships in 3 different classes. Pit stop being accomplished here, the fuel going in, and it seems to take so long for all of that diesel, the 84 liters, to flow in.
Okay, go. You're clear.
Marco Werner underway.
Yeah, there was a lot of go-go-go's going on there, so sometimes that can get miscommunicated. Go-go-go initially was for the crew to do the tire change, and then go-go-go was for Marco. So I'm surprised they don't have a different terminology for what means, you know, take the next part of the pit stop. Yeah. Anyway, good clean stop. Marco Werner now fighting that sunlight there. And with an hour and 27 minutes to go, for sure these Audis will see pit lane one more time today. Meanwhile, the number 3 machine, currently running second in GT1, is in. Brian?
Right now, Jan Magnussen behind the wheel. And this is a problem on the 03. They were just talking on the radio. I heard Dan Bink say, I know, Jan, we're looking at it. So obviously they saw something either on telemetry or on our screen. As a matter of fact, Dan Bink's on the right front right now. Normally he's calling the pit stops, and they're shaking the front end, trying to see if something is loose up front. You see Danny over on the right front looking at it, gives it the thumbs up, says everything's okay. And they send Magnussen back out, but obviously some type of A handling issue that Magnussen did not like. We'll see if we can find out what it was, but a problem on the 3.
Well, and that's going to give a nice margin to the team car, the number 4. And of course, with all the success the 3 car has had coming in here as we watch Binks in some serious consulting mode, it's an interesting stat here. Since 2004, after Le Mans, the number 4 car has averaged 4 wins a season. So as strong as that 3 car has been, you can't afford to give anything to the number 4 machine.
You can't. Right now they have a 32-point lead over the 4 machine, but remember, bonus points here today will be 25 points for the win, so Danny Binks has to make a call there. You cannot afford to take any risks. If that 3 car was to fail, not make 70% of distance, and get points today, that would mean that the margin would be almost 0 going into the next round.
There's a good look at Dan Binks, and you can see the concern there. Brian?
Well, guys, I just checked in with Johnny O'Connell real quickly, and he kind of motioned to me and held his hand at about 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock, telling me that the steering wheel is not straight, which would tell you that something in the suspension is either bent, they've bent a steering link, or that something else is awry in the steering, perhaps in the rack itself. But either way, a problem in the front end of this number 3 Corvette. And that championship is on the line here. If they win another race, all they have to do is finish 70% of the rest of the races to gain that championship. But right now, the 3 car treading some very rough waters right now here at Road America.
Well, I wouldn't think that you would want to have a steering issue going through the kink in these Corvettes. The new video homepage of AmericanLeMans.com features content for the fans and from the fans. We want to hear from you, so log on today at AmericanLeMans.com to submit your video content. Well, we've seen the problems for the 3 car. Ollie Gavin leads GT1 in the 4 car, but out front now it is P2 and Frank Montagny. Coverage of the American Le Mans Series Generac 500 is brought to you by Mazda. On any given weekend, there are more Mazdas road raced than any other brand. And by Generac Power Systems, a premier leader in portable and automatic standby power generators. Welcome back to Road America. We are under a full course caution, and the reason is the number 30 Intersport entry. John Faulkner, the driver, had a bit of an off and ended up in the gravel very close to the edge of the track, and obviously deemed to be in an unsafe area. They have got the big gale force machinery out there to try and get him removed and extracted. And we also had a problem for the number 73 Flamingo Hotel and Resorts taffel entry. You can see a little bit of damage to that left rear quarter, but he came down the front straight, a huge plume of smoke, and has been smoking all the way around the track. Here's what it looked like. It was substantial as it came by.
Well, tough to tell if it's coming from the engine or just emanating from some tire up there. It looks like it's coming from the left rear only. So the crew are not allowed to work on the car. Pit lane is closed. They couldn't afford to keep Jim out there any longer. Had to bring him into the pits. There's no penalty for that. You just can't do any servicing on the car until the pit lane is open.
Now let's see if we can take a look and find out what happened to the number 30 Intersport entry. It's second race here as they've come on board with the second car.
Just understeering wide there, coming through Canada corner, just digs it into the gravel trap, keeps the steering in, and just turns it around. You're not going anywhere at that point.
But I'll tell you what, these Road America Gale Force operators are exceptional. Get that car out, and then the IMSA safety team on scene to get everything cleaned out of the car. We get a report now, pits are open, and the number 9 Patron Highcroft entry is leading Scott Sharp behind the wheel, because just before this full course caution came out, the number 26 Frank Montagny, the Andretti Green entry, had pitted and turned that over. So it's Sharp, Werner, Montagny, Fessler. But we anticipate, obviously, some stops here as we're now at about an hour 17 remaining.
We'll do tires, fuel, and then we'll look over the car.
Crew are given John Faulkner some instruction there. This yellow is really going to hurt the 9 team, I believe, because they were very close to a pit stop, and you think, oh, you catch a yellow, that's good. Well, not when you have rules where the pit lane is closed. Essentially, everyone packs up to you, then you come in, and everyone just blows on by you, stays out on the racetrack. So Scott Sharp was getting ready within about 5 or 10 minutes of making a pit stop. Now the pit lane is closed. Fortunately, he had enough fuel on board to keep running. Otherwise, he'd be sitting still in pit lane, much like the 73 machine. So we'll just have to wait and see how this strategy plays out. But I have to believe that this hurts the Highcroft team. Listening to Robin Hill there, I believe, in terms of radio communication.
You are staying in the car at this moment. You are staying in the car at this moment.
think what it also may hurt, the driver has to do 1 hour. I think they wanted to get Brabs back in. So if they wanted to stretch it, they couldn't put Brabham in. Like if they wanted to do this as their final stop, hope for some caution and keep David in the car, that may exceed that 3-hour time limit. So there's a lot of different rules that the teams have to think about when they're making these pit calls. Pit lane is open.
Okay, I'm coming to the pits now. In 4, Scott, in 4. Mixture 5, you are staying in the car. You are staying in the car. Staying in the car.
I think he's staying in the car. Two-time Trans Am winner here, 91, 93. He knows his way around Road America.
And I tell you what, I was very impressed with Scotty Sharp at Mid-Ohio. At Lime Rock, I thought, you know what, maybe he doesn't have the pace of David Brabham, but he really was on his game at Mid-Ohio, and that's what this team needs. You really need 2 drivers who can run the same pace, so it doesn't compromise your strategy, and Scott Sharp really starting to learn the ropes.
In 4 now. Right on the mark, Scott, right on the mark.
And he puts it right on the marks. I think Scott Sharp may be staying in the car, guys. I'm not real sure. Obviously, the radio communication wanting to make certain that he knows not to unplug his radio or his drink bottle or to loosen his belts. There's a lot that these drivers do when they come down pit road to get ready to do a driver change. So the crew wanting to make sure that the belts stay tight and all of the driver ID plugs, the radio plugs, and the drink bottle plugs stay in. It is a routine stop, but the problem is my watch shows about 1 hour and 13 minutes left to go. They can't go 1 hour and 13 minutes, so the question is, will there be another caution? Can they save enough fuel? Will this be the last stop, or will we see them again?
I think the bigger concern, by our reckoning, he's only been in there about 56 minutes, so if David got in the car, he'd be doing 3 hours, 4 minutes of this race, and you cannot do this. And I think the reason that Robin Hill was so insistent on the radio about you staying in, I think the game plan was he was going to do a single stint and David was going to finish this race. So right now, I would say Scott Sharp has to finish this event out for the Highcroft team.
We saw a couple of other stops as well. You just saw the 6 car Long came in and beat the number 9 Patron Highcroft entry out, and also the number 15 of Fernandez, the Lowe's Fernandez Acura, was in for a stop as well. So pit lane very busy. And Brian, when you were talking about that, you said your watch is about 1 minute 13 or 1 hour 13. According to official scoring, was 1 hour and 15, so even more of a stretch where they're going to try it. But as you said, Calvin, it's the driver scenario more than the fuel scenario, isn't it, really?
Yeah, the driver log time, and I think what the Highcroft team were hoping to do was to keep it green for about 5 more minutes, bring that car in for their final, for another stop and get David in the car, and then hope for some caution period to get him to the finish without another stop. So hasn't quite worked out that way, and this is where the teams have to be on their toes. They have to be flexible with their strategy and not get too locked in.
And also, although we didn't see it, I think perhaps the number 62 Ferrari pitted, because we now show Hensler leading in the number 45 in GT2 over the 71 of Miller and the 62 of Salo. And at the time of the yellow, the Hensler was second and a ways back. So that is the report. We get the confirmation on that. And of course, even with a bad steering rack, this does help the number 3 Corvette as well to be able to close up just a little bit. So, and one of the things that we've been talking about, of course, all day long is the tires and how important they are. And that is a nice segue right into our Michelin tire tip. Brian?
You silver-tongued devil, Greg, you're wonderful. But let's talk about tires here. You know, a lot of the teams think of Road America as kind of a test for Le Mans, even though it's a long way away. We talked about that with Corvette Racing. Well, Michelin uses it for such as well. This racetrack has incredibly high speeds, and in these prototype cars, it's literally thousands of pounds of aerodynamic downforce that push the car down on the road. And when it does that, it compresses the sidewall of these tires. So the Michelin engineers use this racetrack to help develop tires, high-speed circuits with a lot of downforce. But in the GT cars, it's high-speed cornering, and that's the same thing that they run into at Le Mans as well. Not only is it important to have the right compound and right construction all across the tread, once again in a GT car, the sidewall is a major component on how that tire is going to help the car handle very high-speed corners here at Road America. So it's a great test bed, not only for tracks in the United States, but for Le Mans, the crown jewel in the sports car racing. So Michelin uses that technology and this test bed to make a better tire, not only for the race cars, but for the cars that you drive on the street as well. Greg?
Well, absolutely, and of course we've heard a lot of people talking about every tire brand here that the left front takes such a pounding around here because of these long duration, high-speed corners, and when that happens, you learn a lot. And they are certainly going to school today here with the performance of these machines. Now, this has been an incredibly busy weekend as we take a look at our 4 class leaders. It's a lot of racing action unfolding here, and some of it in the open wheel ranks, and it was great. Come experience the 35th anniversary of the Rolex Monterey Historics Automobile Races. Witness hundreds of historic race cars challenge the corkscrew for 3 fabulous days, August 15th through the 17th. For tickets, log on to MontereyHistoric.com or call 1-800-327-SEICA. That is an incredible event with such historical significance, and it's just fun. Great stuff, so check it out.
Okay, a lot of strategy going on here. We've seen a lot of pit stops going on during this caution period, Brian.
Duncan Dayton here on the box, just calling some interesting strategy. I mean, you guys all over the rules. Duncan, tell us about drive time first and then about fuel mileage to the end.
We're in good shape on the driver time, and the number 7 car is a little bit out of strategy with us, so we're just playing a couple of games, seeing if we can catch up with them.
But Scotty had not been in the car long enough. You guys stopped on the yellow, sent him back out to do that other lap?
Correct.
Are you going to tell me anything else? Can you make it to the end?
Well, we'll have to see, won't we?
I don't want to play poker with this guy.
It's going to be tight. I still think they need a little help. It's going to be about an hour, 3 minutes when we see this green flag. And that's going to be a stretch, but we know the majority of the other prototype runners will need another pit stop today.
The question is, Calvin, how much can they conserve? Because they can run right at an hour, so they're about 3 minutes short. If everybody else has to come to pit road, can they conserve enough to make it to the end? We'll find out. We're racing.
We sure are, and the second Audi of Fessler took a look at the inside, and 2 of the P2 cars slamming the door because they didn't want to lose touch. And there's a big move right there, Montagny, making sure that he sticks in that second place overall position, getting around the number 16 of Chris Dyson. Actually, that car, I believe, down a lap as these guys are working through, and Fessler eventually, of course, gets by. And then there's Timo Bernhard in that number 7 DHL Global Mail Penske Porsche that Duncan was just alluding to, being a little out of sequence with them. And are we going to see exactly what this new TDI, the direct injection power plant in the Porsche can do, not just in terms of speed, but in terms of fuel economy?
Well, they're going to have to pull a rabbit out of their hat here today because Montagny has 23 minutes more fuel on board and he's in front of them. So you have to say the advantage right now is with Acura and the AGR car number 26, who currently leads P2. There he is now, starting to put the pressure on Werner. He has a very good race car, and it seems like this number 2 machine takes a couple of laps to get up to speed, as we saw earlier in the event with Lucas Luhr behind the wheel.
And Montagny has shown just tremendous speed, pace, bravado, whatever it takes here at Road America throughout the days of testing and then the official practice and qualifying. He has been spectacularly quick, and look at him right now. He is right there just trying to obviously flash in the lights, try and confuse Werner. I don't think Werner's going to bite on that, but Montagny very, very close. And here comes Fessler, very close in this queue as well. There he is. So there's your top 4 overall. Bernhard right there in the mix. There's some good stuff here and a lot of pressure. It's P1, P2, P1, P2 in the top 4 overall.
This is great stuff, and Fessler has done a remarkable job. The 3rd car in line, the 2nd of the Audis, kept his nose clean, run a very good pace. Just a good, deliberate progress throughout the course of this 3-day weekend. So this is tremendous stuff, and this is the strategy. You see the yellow machine, Timo Bernhard, the championship leader. For this guy, Frank Montagny, in the black and blue AGR car, they're not really in a factor for the championship. They just want race wins, and they want that P1 program from Acura for next year.
Well, as these two, Montagny and Fessler, came out of 14, Montagny had a pretty good margin on him, and by the time they got just up by the start-finish stand, that Audi was all over him, and again, Montagny just moved over, slammed the door. That is just how aggressive these Audis are when they get into that power band of that turbo, which is really from about 0 to 5,000 RPM, and just pulls them up the hill. They just eat up the other traffic. In the corners, in the twisty bits, those lighter Acuras and the Porsches obviously can do a little bit with it, but in a straight line, the Audis rule, and they are doing everything they can right now to try and get to a 1-2 overall scenario here. And Montagny with his obviously very aggressive shutting of the door, is doing everything to not have that happen. And here comes Bernard.
And we have to assume that all 4 of these cars will need fuel. The Audis for sure. Montigny, he's not even going to be able to stretch it. And certainly that Porsche right there, Timo Bernhard. So when you look a bit further back in the pack, we just spoke to the team principal, Duncan Dayton. I have to say that number 9 car may be in good shape at the end of this race.
Watching them down through Canada corner, no change in position at this stage. Meanwhile, in GT2, we've got a great scrap going. Number 62, Salo, the red Ferrari up front as we ride on board with second in class. The number 87, the Farnbacher Lowells entering the Marquis Jet machine on board here with Werner, and Salo in the Risi Ferrari leads. Boy, is this going to be finally the breakthrough for that Risi team in the American Le Mans Series this year. Such a dominant year last year. Yes, they won Le Mans, that was huge, but they just have been shut out really in the ALMS this year in the GT2 category. Always been fast, there's been no question of that, but just haven't had the results at the checkers. And boy, they need one, they want one bad, but boy, Werner is hounding.
He is, and these boys are going to be tight on fuel as well. They're going to have to really stretch it to see the checkered flag without a splash of fuel here this afternoon. And a guy who's not far behind them is the 45 machine of Wolf Hensler. He stopped about 4 minutes after these guys, and that could be critical. Just a fascinating battle this year between the Ferraris and the Porsches. 3 victories per mark. And this will sway the odds at the end of today. Brian?
Calvin, already the teams on the GT2 side of the fence talking about maps and fuel maps and trying to conserve fuel. They know that with just over an hour, it's going to be hard to make. Now, historically, the Porsche has gotten a little better fuel mileage than the Ferrari. It's got that 4-liter engine in it that's relatively new, and they run it at a little bit of a lower RPM than they did the 3.8 liter or the 3.9 liter. So that lower RPM saves fuel, and also they're going to really stick to the drivers and make sure that the drivers make sure that they're lifting off the gas, squeezing on the throttle nice and smoothly to try to save every drop of fuel that they can. While the fuel maps will save some, the drivers can save a lot by the way they work the throttle.
And it certainly helps for the Porsches. They got a lot smaller frontal area, so they're not pushing that big front end that the Ferraris have through the air, which eats up fuel as well. We are into a good one here. Under 58 minutes remaining here at Road America. The classes are live. This one's going to be fun right to the end. Under an hour to go here at Road America, but if you're just joining us, here's what's unfolded at the green. The 2 Audis led away, but John Field in the number 37 Intersport car was coming up through the pack, working hard. You see a couple of the machines right there. Meanwhile, Gilles de Ferran thought he was past one of the 4 GTs. Not quite. They got into each other. De Ferran buried in the gravel. Then a little bit later on, he tries a move on the other Ford GT, and it too resulted in some contact. Long stop for that team. Meanwhile, on the restart after one of the early yellows, look at John Field absolutely blowing by everybody in the Intersport car into the lead. But Lucas Luhr was on the move, came from 3rd, got around Romain Dumas for 2nd overall. Then was looking at John Field, made a beautiful move and was able to take point. Luhr at that point led overall. Meanwhile, a huge offer. Newcomer James Rossiter in the AGR entry didn't hit anything, was able to continue, and on board there was Brabham. And then this move for the P2 lead, a beautiful outside move by Romain Dumas around Adrian Fernandez, put him into the lead in the P2 category. It's been racing like that from the get-go, and it continues right here in GT2. This is the battle for the race lead, the 62 Freescale Ferrari from Risi Racing of Mika Salo, but right behind him the 87 Farnbacher Lowell's Marquis Jet entry of Werner. This is as close as it is. The big question here is fuel.
It really is. I mean, do you run lean and maybe give up track position right now and hope you can make it without an additional stop, or do you keep pushing and trying to maintain that lead? So very tough call. And there you see, wow, that's unique. One of the billboards is down.
That's Ollie Gavin. He's got
damage
tires
to the
down,
left side as well. So the 4 car just can't seem to catch a break this year.
Oh, and into the gravel.
Just plows it into the gravel there. Maybe that banner was stopping him from turning the wheel. Obviously gone off the road. Maybe the flat tire first when he went off the road.
No, I just lost it. I'm all right. I'm okay.
Said he lost it and tore that banner down along the way.
It's an old banner. That's unbelievable. And remember, it was the 3 car that had the problem with steering and the like, and it looked like maybe it was going to go the way of the 4 car. Here it is, Cal.
Wow. Coming off the kink, he's way off there. And there you see the billboard he's about to hit. So that's a big moment. Just got way off in the dirt there on the exit of the kink. We didn't see the initial impact, but you saw the cracked bodywork, the left rear tire down, and Ollie feels that his day is done. Walks away from the car, and just a huge swing in momentum.
Unbelievable.
I mean, for so many seasons, it seemed like this car, the 3 car, couldn't catch a break, but now they look like they're on the way to their 6th victory of this season.
Yeah, the 3 car had 3 wins total last year, while this car with Ollie and Ollie were just dominant, and a huge change right now. Plus, we are full course caution, so some of these fuel concerns, this is going to be big. Huge.
Absolutely. I'd have to think that would bring the 9 car into their window of making it without a need for a splash. The 6 car also. We talked about that new direct fuel injection on the Porsche. Maybe this man, Pat Long, can now stretch his fuel long enough. He stopped a little bit before the 9 car, about 9 minutes earlier. But again, Penske working every angle, every piece of strategy available to them to try and get one of these yellow cars to the checkered flag first tonight.
Once again, one of the things the Porsche engine engineers were so excited about was not just the fuel conservation that this car is capable of, this new direct injection at race speeds, but under yellows, they said at minimum of 5% more fuel savings we can do, because they can lean the mixture out so much with the way the direct injection works. They said that's where we think we could see some massive benefits, and if that's true, it's playing into it perfectly right now.
Well, this full course caution is wreaking havoc up and down pit road. You were just talking about it, Greg. For the guys at the 6 team, I checked with them just before the track went full course caution, and they said, we think we might be good to go to the end. Well, this yellow should give them that. What about the 9 down at Highcroft with Brabham? What a great call. They topped that car up with fuel. Will they be good to go to the end? Will this full course caution give them the ability to make it to the end? The 7 car is set up. They need to make another stop. So it's going to be interesting to see right now. Teams up and down pit road. Some of the teams are set up to make stops. I'm here at the 7 team at Penske Racing. They are definitely going to need to make a stop. As I look down pit road, I see Highcroft set up as well, but that may be as much of a bluff as it is anything else. Greg?
Well, and there's also been some concern in the GT2 ranks about whether the 62 and or the 87 who are in that pitch battle, and now, of course, with the caution, the number 45 of Hensler, exactly what their fuel scenarios are in getting to the end. This could answer a lot of those questions as well, or just create more.
Right. I think we're going to see a lot of activity once this pit lane opens. I think we'll see a bunch of these front runners come in. The Audis, I would suspect, certainly the 7 machine. He's been out there best part of an hour since his last pit stop. But for the 6 car, the 9 car, I think you're spot on, Brian. I think those guys may be able to roll the dice now and make it.
All right, as we are under caution with 49.5 minutes remaining here at Road America, we're going to step away for just a minute. They haven't even started the extraction on the number 4 car, so we will be under caution for a little bit. Meanwhile, here are your 4 class leaders, and once again, it is Werner leading overall in the number 2 Audi. Welcome back, everybody. The pits have just opened, and it is being swarmed. But as we take a look at all the cars that are coming in, the notable one that stayed out, the number 9 of Brabham, the Patron Highcroft entry. Here are both of the, and Brian is there. I think we've got both of the Audis in.
Both Audis are indeed in. Marcel Fesser just behind Marco Werner in the number 2 car. We heard him say it's not going to be a full load here on the 2. He wasn't completely dry, so they will change tires, which is a bit surprising, although the temperature's getting quite cool right now as the sun goes down. The 6 stopped as well. And looking back down pit road, the 7, Timo Bernhard on pit road. Werner down and away. And right behind him, Fessler leaves as well. So does Timo Bernhard back on track.
Well, maybe on one level, a bit of a surprise, the 6 stop based on what we were talking about and how it can conserve and the like. But there's another side to the story, isn't
Well, there is, because the 6 car didn't need as much fuel, so they knew even by bringing him in,
fuel, please. Reset your fuel.
He was going to be able to leapfrog those Audis because a much shorter fuel stop. But there was certainly some action there on the 26 car, Jamie.
That's right, the 26 car came into the pits. They put about 10 seconds worth of fuel into the car. They knew that they needed a little bit, and that caution gave them the perfect opportunity to get it.
So the 9 car are really rolling the dice. I think they're going to be okay, but it's going to be desperate here in those last few laps. But they seem to have the momentum right now. They seem to have that little bit of luck that you need, the little bit of momentum, and it all sort of plays a part in this game. But this 26 car looked to be in really good shape in comparison to the 7 car, but I think they've still got a very fast car, an extremely fast driver in Montigny. He can still bring it home.
Didn't the number 9 car run out of gas on the cool-down lap at Lime Rock?
It did.
They've played it close before.
They have. And you have to wonder about the Audis have now been shuffled back in the pack. They've been the dominant car overall today, but they have so much straight line speed here. I think if they're even close to these P2 cars, they're just going to whistle by them down these long straightaways. So where do you play it? Do you go for your class victory amongst these P2 boys, or do you worry about those Audis? Look at them weaving around now. It was just a fuel stop on the 26 car, so these hot tires, that's the key. When you've got a caution like this, if you stay out or if you stay on the same set of tires, it's going to pick up the rubber a lot more easily because the tire is sticky and hot. If you change tires, you don't get as much pickup, so that's a real important factor. Maybe why the Audis decided to change tires as well as take fuel.
But on the other side of the coin, if you change tires, it takes a while to get you up to time, and it also takes a while to get them up to temp and pressure, and the car can be a little sketchy.
Right. But it's about 8 to 10 seconds, 8 seconds approximately on the P2 cars, about 10 typically for an Audi stop, but you can lose that easily in just getting the pickup off the tires for the first couple of laps. So I think for the Audi boys, this is a good call. They got very strong race cars today, and they now have fresh tires and enough fuel to go for it.
You made the point about, for the P2 guys, do you focus on the P2 battle or do you go overall? Maybe that comes into where you are in the points. Andretti Green, what do they have to lose going for the overall? Certainly the Penske boys in the 7 and the Acura Highcroft entry, they're in a pitched battle for the P2 championship, so maybe that'll factor in.
Absolutely.
Brian?
Right now, Duncan Dayton trying to decide whether they can make it or not. You see him right now talking to one of the Acura engineers in a powwow, walking now back around behind the pit box. I'm going to bring a lie detector the next time I come down to here to find out for sure whether they can get the mileage. As a matter of fact, they are walking well away, guys, having a deep conversation about, do we have the fuel? Do we have the mileage? Can we get this thing to the finish?
Well, such an intense program, and it's great to see that team develop. I mean, for so long, Duncan Dayton has been a fierce competitor, but he had kind of a fun side to it as well. And right now, he's in the serious business of running a manufacturer program for one of the biggest names in motorsport, Acura. So the game and the rules have changed a little bit. I said, did you ever believe that you'd be working so many hours a day? And he said, smiled and said, no, but I'm certainly enjoying it.
Yeah, he is. I think he's enjoying the challenge of maybe not the pressure of a moment like this. The American Le Mans Series charts a return visit to the fast and exciting Mosport International Raceway in Toronto on August 24th for the Grand Prix of Mosport, a driver favorite. You can see the action live right here on Speed from 3 to 6 p.m. on Sunday, August 24th. Don't miss the high-speed action and excitement of Mosport. All right, well, we are still under caution. We're going to step away one more time here and hopefully get back when we go green and bring you the action. Brabs leads overall. For the first time in American Le Mans Series history, qualifying at Mosport on August 23rd is going to be streamed live on AmericanLeMans.com and SpeedTV.com, featuring speed coverage and series radio commentary. Don't miss it. August 23rd, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, AmericanLeMans.com, SpeedTV.com. Going for one fast lap at Mosport is something to behold, and the fact that we'll be able to catch it here on the web is fabulous. So make sure you guys check it out. You're going to enjoy it. Trust me on that one. Looking forward to getting there in a couple of weeks. Beautiful Porsche aerial cam giving us a look here. Lights out on the pace car. Anticipating a green flag coming up here.
Be ready. Be ready. It's all you, David. All you.
There he goes.
Go, go, go. Just go, David. Just go.
He didn't need the invitation. David Brabham just took off. Look at the lead he has pulled here.
Did I just see one of the Audis duck into the pits? One of the pros, definitely one of the prototypes. Here we go.
There you see Fernandez running in second. The silver and blue machine just flashing through your screen. Montigny not far behind. There's the 6 car of Pat Long, the championship leader. The 7 car of Timo Bernard a little bit further in the pack. So not taking that early stop in this race. Seems to have come back and haunted them just a little bit right now, but still a long ways to go. 36 minutes plus.
And let's not count out that white car right there, the number 20 Thetford Norcold entry of Butch Leitzinger for Dyson Racing, having a very strong run here, sitting right now 4th in the overall and 4th in class order. An absolutely great drive. They have had a couple of great performances this year that were nullified late in the going by incidents that were not of their doing. They're due. They really would like to get one here. The problem is they've also got some very fast equipment around them, and one of them right there is Pat Long in the number 6 Penske Porsche Spyder.
Remember, these guys, the Penske's have the new engine configuration, the DFI. The Dyson team does not, so they're not going to get the same fuel mileage and not the same horsepower, even though they're running the same chassis. Hopefully Dyson will see that shortly, maybe at Motorsport. Brian.
Right now down in the Penske camp, Jeff Swartout on the 7 car talking to the officials down here saying, hey, we were watching the restart on the television as well, and the 9 car jumped it. There is a rule about not passing the pace car as he's on pit lane. Now, I don't know where the line of demarcation is, where you can accelerate past him or not, but the Penske guys very upset saying, hey, the 9 car went and went way too soon.
Well, they certainly watch every angle, so there will certainly be a mark along there that they have been told is where the acceleration point is. It's a long pit lane here, so certainly you don't have to wait for the pace car to get all the way through.
Let's go, 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 man. Go, go.
There you can see it, the number 15 of Fernandez, right behind it, the 26 Andretti Green XM satellite machine. And there's at least under heavy load when they're at top end speeds. I'm seeing at the back of that number 26 entry a lot of sparks coming from the center of the car. I wonder if one of the air jacks might not be fully retracted. Oh, Fernandez has gone around.
You saw it, Greg. That may have been the issue there. If that was going on, that would have dug into the pavement and turned him around. Big moment there under braking and turn in for turn 3. Adrian Fernandez, and when he hit the gravel, he nearly went up on its side.
Boy, and it just went suddenly.
I just came into the corner, something broke.
He said something broke as he was turning into the corner. See the intensity.
To see what it was. Kind of looked funny.
Your eyeballs are on stalks when you're driving one of these prototypes around this place.
I have no brakes at all.
And of course, a full course caution. That is not an area where you want to get another car into, so they're going to exercise caution as Fernandez sits there. Let's take another look at it.
There we see coming down into the braking zone, looks in his mirrors, starts to turn in.
Oh, it did.
Left rear is completely broken. Just massive toe out in the left rear corner as he turned it in, and then very lucky he didn't tumble upside down. So not an air jack, Greg, but you saw something going awry. Here's the onboard through turn 1. Luckily it didn't happen here. A lot higher speed corner, hard on the power, down the hill onto the brakes, then wait for the ride right here. Look at the angle there as it goes up in the air. Very lucky boy, but very disappointed that a great run here today comes to naught once again.
Absolutely.
Turn the master off before you get out. Ignition off, not the master. Ignition off. Turn the ignition off.
Our shot from the camera in turn 3, it really looked like there was a little bump there. And I mean, his car moved so much more than anybody else. You wonder if that may not have been the incident. Jamie?
Luis Diaz watching as Adrian had trouble out on track. I know you were watching. The whole crew is pretty upset right now. What happened?
Yeah, well, seems to be that the left rear suspension broke, unfortunately. I mean, the low cycle car was running fantastic, and unfortunately, I mean, we have this problem, you know. It's very sad for all the guys.
With all of the action out on track, is there any contact that's happened today that you know of?
No, I think it just broke. I mean, I didn't have a contact. I know Adrian didn't have a contact. Unfortunately, I think just the suspension gave up.
All right, broken Acura today. Adrian's been really impressed with all of the advances that Acura has made. This certainly won't hinder that at all, but a disappointing day for Lowe's Fernandez Racing.
It really is. He's looking around the race car. He's not aware that broke, so when he gets to the other side, he'll certainly see something there.
Well, they've definitely been a hard luck team. I mean, you go back to Lime Rock, they were very quick at the end, looked like they are in the race, looked like they might finally be in with it, and then an electronic glitch comes up and they get a misfire and suddenly nowhere again. And they have shown tremendous pace. There's no question of that. It's just sometimes racing, purely racing luck doesn't go your way, and for Adrian, certainly the case today. He's getting back in at this stage. They're just going to tow him out at this point and then hopefully get him tucked away. All right, so, well, big developments once again, and we are now approaching 30 minutes remaining. David Brabham leads overall and in P2. Werner going to be right there and ever closer when we get ready for a restart. This one should be interesting. Welcome back to Road America, where I think the war is about to begin. We're at just under 24 minutes remaining with all of this yellow recently, all of these fuel concerns, everything is out the window. It is pure sprint time, and we have some incredibly close battles in a number of classes, and there's precedent for it. 4 of the closest 18 finishes and 3 of the closest 10 in the series' 9-year history have come right here at Road America. We've got the overall battle, we've got the P2 battle, and an incredibly close battle going on right now in the GT2 ranks. I mean, basically, your top 5 cars in GT2 are covered incredibly closely at this point by some 0.7 of a second, and there you go. You're taking a look from Dirk Werner, the number 87 Farnbacher Lowell's entry, second in GT2. That red Ferrari of Salo, he's your race leader in the class. It's this close.
It really is close, and you have to be so careful. You see drivers on different programs here in terms of getting heat in the tires, heat in the brakes, and sometimes you can whistle around a corner and suddenly there's a big stack up, and you have to be very careful because you don't have full brake temperature, full tire temperature. You can get caught out. But this is David Brabham, our overall leader, and of course leader in the P2 class. He's right behind the pace car. And we're going to take a look here in a moment at the last restart. There's a rule in place.
Ready. It's all you, David. All you.
Listen to the team.
Ready. Go, go, go. Just go, David. Just go.
There he passes the pace car, even though the pace car is in pit lane, and the rule states that the green flag has to be out before you do that. We don't get a shot of it there on that aerial shot, but Penske were very concerned. Well, not concerned. They were adamant that David Brabham went too early. And of course, Highcroft are saying, no, we didn't do anything wrong, of course. And right now, they'll certainly be under a microscope here to get a good, clean start. And Montagny is going to be very aggressive. And there you see Pat Long. They're looking for their first victory with the 6 machine this year.
Let's set the stage. P2, 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 2 Audis.
Well,
uphill climb, long straight, huh?
Well, you know that Marco Werner is going to be on it. Here he is, on board with Marco Werner. He's going to try and use that TDI power. I would imagine that he'll blow by Pat Long down this straightaway. Montagny's going to be all over the back of David Brabham. Where do they all end up in turn 1? Bigger gap there to the pace car. Brabham's on the gas. Everyone's on the gas. Pat Long didn't get a great start. Here comes Marco Werner.
Boy, Werner now moves to the outside. He's already by. That is that Audi turbo power in that diesel. Long watches that car fade. Montagny looks inside Brabham into 1. Can't get it done. Brabham hangs on, but Werner is now in 3rd overall. Long right behind him, then Fessler. So we've got 2 P2 cars out front and in the overall ranks. Then Werner, Long, Fessler. Those 3 have already gapped a little bit over Leitzinger and the rest of the clan. Montagny right there, but now another long straight. Werner in the Audi. Here he comes. He looks to the inside. He's closing up. Montagny just moves over, I think maybe more to dissuade the Audi than to really take a run. But Fessler has now managed to get around Long, so Acura, Audi, Porsche up into turn 6.
Well, David Brabham got a tremendous start there. Had enough of a gap on the very aggressive Frank Montagny. And look at Fessler starting to put the pressure on his teammate, Marco Werner. Pat Long's got shuffled back a little bit. Can he respond? Montagny on the gas earlier, looks to the inside, jukes to the inside of David Brabham. Brabham's on the gas, very hard with the aero wash that you get from the car in front to stay that close. That's why the gap is immediately there. You can't stay on the power, the downforce goes away, Greg.
And those 2 Acuras through that part of the track very quick. There's that sparking I was seeing again. Meanwhile, through the carousel and the kink, they open it up just a little bit. Again, Montagny and Fessler taking a look. Nope, not gonna make that move either, Calvin.
A lot of that, I think that maybe the car, when the tire pressures aren't up, consequently the ride height is lower. That may be the skid plates rubbing until the tire pressures come up on the 26 machine.
Brabham's out of 14. Good exit out of that turn. That is so key. And he got one. Montagny and then the 2 Audis.
You watch the battle between Werner and Fessler. Remember, we've seen this all day long on a restart. Takes a bit longer on the 2 car to really get the handling down. I think that's exactly what we're seeing, especially with the cooler temperatures. It's going to take a while to get tire temperature and that very important tire pressure.
I think that's the key point, Brian. You said the cooler temperatures. We're now approaching 8 o'clock here local, so it's very cool, and that's going to make these tire temperatures a little harder to generate from the drivers. They were scrubbing the tires hard, but David Brabham now has got the hammer down. The weekend didn't start off good for the Highcroft boys, but they've worked diligently. They've kept their patience. They've been calm, and Brabham is on top form this year.
He is indeed, by the way, in the GT2 battle. It is still Salo leading Werner, so that has not changed just yet at this point. However, bit of a change in the third, fourth, and fifth ranks in GT2 as Hensler has slipped on that restart back to fifth. The 46 team car of Patrick Pillet has moved into third. 71 Mueller in the Taffel entry is now fourth, and Hensler has dropped back. On board with Wolf, and now he's got some prototype traffic. That is the 71 of Mueller right in front of him, the battle for fourth.
And the most important thing about that battle, and you talk about Hensler losing a bit, is that he lost ground to Mueller. Mueller's gotten past him. Remember, that is the battle for the championship in GT2. I talked to the team earlier. They said, we don't care about the 62 being in front of us. It's the 71 we have to stay in front of. Well, on that last restart, Hensler just gave away the position to Mueller.
Yeah, he surely did, and you can see now Hensler is fighting to get around this prototype that's just not quite on the pace right here, and that is allowing the 71 to disappear, exactly what he did not want to have happen.
And these are the championship leaders, so this is critical right now. They had a 4-point lead coming into this race over the 71 machine that now runs in front of them, so certainly very tight points race, and each position is critical at this stage of the season. Great to see this car back.
Yeah.
The double away, they've had a lot of adversity this year. That's a GT1 car in the mix there as well. Currently running second in GT1 today with the retirement of the 4 machine. Chapman Dakota, great young man, and really starting to learn the ropes. And he's got one of the best in the business, Terry Borschella and Jim Bell, to learn from.
Yeah, it's one of those teams that they too have had an awful lot of struggles this year and have kept coming back and up for the game, and they certainly are here. Meanwhile, there's the overall battle. Brabham continues to lead Montagny, then that little bit of a gap back to Werner and Marcel Fessler, and Fessler has now dropped off just a little bit. And I was going to say, I know he wants to audition well in hopes of getting a ride in one of these cars for the full 2009 season, but I don't know if you want to beat the team leaders in doing it, but it may be that handling issue as well, and that number 2 car finally is come good.
It has, and you can see now that Werner's starting to get into his stride a little bit, has gapped Fessler a little bit, but I think Fessler's done a tremendous job here this weekend. But there you see Montagny's car running really low, and that generates a lot of downforce. You don't want it so it's really hitting the bumps too hard and creating a lot of drag, but the lower you get these cars aerodynamically, the better they work.
Watching that battle up front from on board, Werner, third overall, leading in P2. Coming up on 16 minutes to go.
He's getting almost close enough, Greg, with these long straightaways. He may be able to take advantage. Watch the climb up this hill, the torque of that diesel. He's going to be very close to these guys by the time they get down to the braking zone. I think the gap may still be a little bit too big, but look at that Audi Comers like a freight train down these straightaways.
Not only are you climbing over 150 feet on that run, it's also fairly abrupt right when you get up there, and that's where that power of that Audi turbo, that big diesel, really shows. But now he gets to do it once again, and he's closer still. I don't know if it's going to be quite enough, but that's as close as he's been coming out of 3, Cal.
It really is. He's getting very close now. It may be difficult until he gets to that front straightaway, but Marco Werner's last lap was about half a second quicker than these two boys. So I would say if it doesn't happen down into Canada, certainly on this front straightaway, we should see some change when we get back around the racetrack again. But David Brabham feeling the heat. Remember, Montagny, he's not in the points chase. David Brabham is still second in P2 points. He has to think big picture a little bit. But these Acura boys, they want to be the best of the 4 Acura teams out there. Look at the brake glow from these boys. You start to see it now as daylight goes away and we turn to night. Tremendous sight for the fans and everyone watching at home.
This is where the 2 Acura is able to gap the Audi a little bit. That long carousel, just able to carry more speed through there than that heavier Audi. Now Werner able to gather it up a little bit, but this is where they get that margin that they're able to maintain through 12, and is helping them certainly out of 14 and up the hill. Look at Montagny. Oh, Brabham lockup. Got away with it, but that right front definitely locked up a little bit. Montagny tucks in, but boy, Werner close.
He's close. I think he's going to be in position this time. Montagny, if he needs to, will have to defend. GT car in front of him. This will slow Brabham. Can Montagny take advantage? Very close there. Here comes Werner. Watch the power of the P1 car. Juke to the left.
He's going to blow by Montagny. He's passed. Now ducks to the inside. He is by. He has gone by Brabham. Montagny takes a look to the inside. The P2 battle side by side into one. Werner leads it, and Montagny takes it. He is your leader in P2, second overall.
Wow. Superb job. David could do nothing about that. Soon as Werner moved outside of Montagny, Montagny immediately picked up the draft of that Audi, and that was enough to take him by David Brabham as well into turn one. Nothing he could do. He could try to be aggressive, but that would have just ended in tears if he'd done that. Can Brabham respond?
8 laps remain.
Adam Gaines on the radio to Marco Werner, just giving him the information. Okay, you have the lead now, 8 laps to go, bring it home. But this P2 battle is not over yet.
And here we go. That is Marcel Fessler, the #1 Audi, is closing up now, taking his own run. And I almost wonder, Calvin, we were seeing how close Fessler was. Maybe when they look back to last year when the two Audis raced each other and ended up giving the win away, essentially, if they didn't say, back off. We need to let one of these guys go. We're going to go for the overall win, then you can race. Let's go back and take a look at that sequence of passes. First, here we go.
Here we go, and I'm surprised that Marco didn't just stay to the left. When he duked to the right, immediately you can see there, Montagny stays to the right. He's picking up the draft. David thinks about defending, stays in the middle of the road. Good, clean driving. Then we're down into the brake zone. Nothing David Brabham could do. Frank's through.
And of course, one of the things Brabham no doubt thinking about is, oh, got some issues here. Here's the 777, and I think, is that Montagny at the exit of Canada Corner? Boy, and he's off. Something
damage
let go.
to the car going into 13. If that is Montagny, there's a car off in the right side. There you see it, up in the gravel trap. What a disaster. You have to.
Oh, and he's stuck.
You'd have to assume he made an aggressive move, maybe on the 007 machine down into Canada.
I just took the race.
Oh, and you could hear the exasperation. Look at that. He knows. Don't exactly know exactly what happened. We're going to go see if we can find it right now, Cal.
He put it on his shoulders. Here we see, coming down into the brake zone. Montagny has a gap on David Brabham. Goes all the way down to the inside. The 007 doesn't see him. Just clobbers the side of that car. That's Paul Drayson behind the wheel. And Brabham slides through for the P2 lead once again. Damaged race car, gravel trap, day done.
Well, look to me right after the contact, the left front corner was broken. You can see an unusual wobble to that tire. And that's why he couldn't negotiate that next corner. And a dejected Frank Montagny walking away. Oh, so close. So it is Werner clear of Brabham, Fessler, Long, and Bernard, your top 3 or your top 5 right now. And in GT2, it is still Salo. We are back under 10 minutes remaining here in the Generac 500 at Road America's 7th round of the America Le Mans Series. We are under another full course caution. The incident between the number 26 Andretti Green XM Satellite Acura.
That's not going to work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the 007 Aston Martin that is stuck in the pea gravel, the sand trap, if you will, over on the outside of Canada Corner. Lord Paul Drayson. Just another frustrating ending to a race here. This team just continues to try and develop this. Let's go back and take another look at the incident here.
Here you see the gap that Montagny has on Brabham in the background there, and just total commitment by Frank Montagny at this stage of the race. 10 minutes ago, you can see immediate damage to the left front of the corner of that race car, and just a late move there. So, you know, if he sat behind him, he was probably going to lose a good second going through that corner and wouldn't have had the exit speed. Brabham would have been all over him at that stage. So Frank Montagny was going for the win, but a very aggressive move.
Well, obviously that team would love a great result, and he was trying to produce that. But, you know, on the other hand here, if he had just exercise a little bit of patience in that point. Yeah, he may have ended up second, but that's better than broken parked.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have seen the same move from David Brabham or Timo Bernhard, for example, with the championship on the line as well. But for Frank, they have nothing to lose. All they're looking for is wins. So you can understand in some way why he made a move as bold as that, but still you can see the result, not a good one.
Let's get down to Jamie in pit lane.
JF, a very disappointing day for the Andretti Green Racing team. What was he saying on the radio, and what did you guys see on the monitors?
He didn't say much, just that the GT2 car got in his way and just hit him. They were well side by side, and he was even past. And you know, he drove his heart out. We had a great shot at this one, and we were looking forward to it. But unfortunately, the slower traffic got us.
You're normally the executive vice president for the team, but making all the calls this weekend as the directors aren't here. Who has to make that call?
Well, those guys are in Kentucky, and it's a whole team effort. I'm not the one that makes all the calls. We have strategists and our engineers, and everybody works together. So there wasn't a call to make. Frank was just driving the last 7 laps, and he had just gotten by Brabs for the lead, and then it happened.
All right, a disappointing day for Andretti Green Racing.
Boy, you can just look at the look. That just says it all. I mean, the tone in his voice is one thing, but that look right at the edge. And if the leader does not duck into the pit lane, we're going back to green.
Stop and then go. That will.
And the number 6 coming in, and that car, of course, in front of Timo Bernhard, the number 7 car, who's in this championship chase with Brabham. You wonder if this isn't a strategy call to try and get the 7 car around this car.
You want to drive to your pit? Drive to the pit, stop, shut the car off, restart it.
You heard the radio traffic. Drive it to the pit, stop it, restart it, and go. You talked about it. There are championship implications at stake, both in the P2 class and in the GT2 class. And the thing that's important in GT2, the Flying Lizard guys got the 45 past the 46 before the full course caution came out. That puts them right behind the 71 on the racetrack. That's a championship at stake. And this pit stop puts the 6 behind the 7, which allows that continued battle there for the P2 championship. So right now, Patrick Long back on track, but that's rearranged the order just the way they needed it.
Yeah, but I really don't understand. Unless they're concerned we're not going to get back to green flag action, which I certainly think we will. I mean, that would be the only reason of bringing them down pit lane, because they're losing more positions within class. I mean, the 20 car is now around Pat Long as well, so a little baffled by that, unless Penske believed that if it stayed under caution to the checkered flag tonight, there'd be no opportunity for Pat to allow Timo around him. That's the only reason I could believe they'd bring him down pit lane.
So maybe since they don't have necessarily the pace that they need here, they were going to be very cautious and just do it in the pit lane to get that car around.
Well, what I'm
the
saying is, Greg,
no, I understand.
They can't allow him to pass under caution.
Right.
So if we don't see it, but you know, it's I don't know, it's just an unusual move, let's put it that way. But they have their reasons, and there's a lot on the line here with the whole Porsche Acura battle in P2, and a couple of precious points here is very critical to that championship for them for the 7 car.
And in the GT2 battle right now, as we're going to get ready for this one, we're getting down to, remember, it's 4 miles around here, so it's not like we're going to have a lot of laps. And here's the 62 and the 87, and this is going to be the battle for the win in the GT2 category. Now, they just went by somebody, and of course, we're under full course caution, and that's not necessarily the case unless that was, they got waved by a car that was in some sort of problems.
Trouble, yeah.
Yeah.
If the driver physically waves you by, then that is okay. And you'd have to think with both of them galloping by like that, there was some kind of signal that went out. So this is going to be a shootout, that's for sure.
Yep. There's Werner, then Brabham. The interesting thing here is Marcel Fessler in that other Audi right behind Brabs.
Guys, you talk about championship implications. Johnny O'Connell and Magnussen after one as well in GT1. And Doug Feehan just talking to the officials down here. I asked him what he was talking about. He said, we're right in the middle of this GT2 battle in our track position. We are waving them by under the full course caution because we don't want any part of it. We want to make sure that we finish this race. So right now, if you see GT2 cars streaming past the Corvette, you'll know why.
And we are off to green, and one of the, oh, Brab's protecting big time, and I guess he could use the excuse that he had to let or get around that Aston Martin, but now he moves back over. Fessler is through. It's Audi's 1-2, Brab's in third. That was aggressive by Brabham, but also I think he realized it was inevitable perhaps, and he's looking at that P2 championship. The overall, yeah, it's nice, but that's not the big issue. Meanwhile, the 87, Dirk Werner, still right behind the Ferrari of Mika Salo, the battle for the lead and the win. And look at this, 45 has come alongside of the 71 of Mueller. Can't quite get it done there, but Wolf Hensler on the move. This is the battle for the points lead in this category in GT2. The 71 Taffel entry, the number 45 Lizard entry, 3 wins apiece. This will break that deadlock here. And again, Hensler comes alongside, but it's the outside, Cal.
It's the outside for turn 5. This is going to be difficult, and Mueller's going to use all of the road here and push him out wide. He does so. Doesn't give him much room. Very tough here now with those gator teeth. They're pretty aggressive for the car. Mueller dives to the inside.
Boy, Hensler got a better run out of 6th, though, didn't he?
This is, like you said, this is for the championship. This is what it's all about. They're only 4 points apart. And this is for 3rd position in class, but it doesn't matter. It's for that championship at the end of the season. Using every ounce of the road.
Wolf missed the apex a little bit, and Mueller ran a little wide at the exit. Meanwhile, here we go back up to the lead battle here as Dirk Werner looking to try and get around Salo. He's all over him through the kinks, some traffic up front.
Farnbacher Lowell's, this team, the 87 machine, looking for their first victory in the American Le Mans Series. They've won in every other category they've competed in. They've been very competitive of late. Whoa, slices to the inside. That was close. Werner realizes if he's going to win this, he can't afford to let Salo get away in traffic.
Through 13, up into 14 in the climb up the hill. Under a minute to go, under a minute to go. But of course, it's all relative to when the leaders take the checker, so they could have a lap, they could have 2 laps to go. Let's see what happens here. Salo trying to draft, looks to move, and he can't get by. Here we go. Oh, Salo gets balked big time.
That's Harrison Briggs in the 61 car. Werner looks to the inside, pushes it through. What a move by Dirk Werner, takes the lead in GT2. Can Salo respond?
Boy, and you have to wonder, make a last lap. Get him. What was Briggs thinking at this point? Now, of course, you've got another car up front. That is the VC entry. You'd think that car will make sure. Boy, it is close now. Watch for this. Salo tucked right in behind.
Rick Mayer was on the radio. He said, this is the last lap. Go get him. Go get him. You got to respond now. You've got to make it happen now. He pushes to the inside. Total commitment to the inside. Can he get a turn?
Oh,
no, he loses the rear end. Too late on the brakes for Mika Salo.
He went around. 87 Werner now through and clean. Of course, the interesting thing now will be Hensler and the 71 of Mueller. What unfolds there? But Dirk Werner was able to get the job done. Salo just a little bit too much, too deep into 5, and around he goes. Meanwhile, here comes Werner. Last lap through 13, heading toward turn 14. Rolling on that big diesel turbo as he heads up the hill. Lots of room. Marcel Fessler comfortable in second overall. And Audi 1-2 bringing it home at the Generac 500. And there is Brabham taking the P2 win over the number 7 of Bernard.
3rd win of the season for the Highcroft boys.
And huge points implications. Keep trimming it. That's what you've got to do.
Classic battle. Audi back on top of Road America. They'd been dominant for so long. Penske took it away from them last year, and here comes the Farnbacher Lowell's car, Greg, looking for their first win in this series.
Boy, what a drive. He caught Salo, worked Salo over. Salo tried to work him back and lost it. And of course, for the Risi camp, they so wanted to get a win here, but at least they'll get a podium, one might assume, if they're able to recover. They may not, as close as it was. Here he comes!
Bryce Miller, Richard Westbrook, and Dirk Werner get that first victory for the Farnbacher Lowell's boys. What a day.
And Hensler got around Mueller, picks up 2nd.
That was huge in the championship.
Massive. So the 71 of Mueller slips to 3rd. And again, Reese missing out on the podium. And there is the number 3, Johnny O'Connell. That team just seems to be living with the magic dust this year. Just seems to pay off for him. Wow, what a great finish here at Road America. We'll be back and visit with our winners. Speed's coverage of the American Le Mans Series Generac 500 is brought to you by Acura. Acura Advance. And by Generac Power Systems, a premier leader in portable and automatic standby power generators. Well, in an incredibly exciting 10th anniversary season for the American Le Mans Series, its 7th visit in those 10 years to Road America. Fitting indeed with the excitement we have had. Here are your P1 results. Luhr and Werner win it overall with the Piro Fosler entry. Now take a look here. We're going to go back, Calvin, at this double pass for the overall lead.
Here he comes using that TDI power. I'm surprised he didn't stay left. He just jukes to the right, and then Brabham is stymied momentarily. He thinks about taking the middle of the road, but Montagny is on a charge. He takes away the P2 lead from Brabham, but it wasn't to last.
It certainly was not, and now Werner down in victory circle, and there's Brian Till.
Lucas Luhr, Marco Werner make it win number 6. Congratulations from Dr. Ulrich as well. And Marco, you were in the car there at the end. Those last couple of restarts, I know when you're a little bit further back, you're probably relying on that torque of the diesel, but with the last restart, were you a little bit concerned?
It was not so easy because a little bit less downforce behind the Acuras. They had a lot of downforce, but I have 38 and behind them, and it was very, very tough to come close and overtake. But another car, GT, helps a little bit in the last corner then for the straights, and we did it. So beautiful day for Audi.
Congratulations, win number 6 in that championship, becoming clear.
Well, and here's just how clear. Take a look at those points right now, and Learn Werner, of course, is drawing away from everybody there. 62 points clear at this point after 7 of the 11 events. A beautiful day for Audi indeed. Now, P2 results. Boy, was it a good one. Sharp and Brabham get another win over Dumas and Bernard. That has points implications as well. Awfully close. Let's get down to Jamie.
David Brabham, another exciting race in LMP2. Not as close as the previous 2 rounds. How were you able to bring home the win today?
Well, I think it was just great strategy by the Patron Highcroft team, really, because, you know, all of a sudden we ended up in the lead and we were way behind. And, you know, I had a good car underneath me. You know, the guys gave me a fantastic car. Michelin tires were really strong at the end. And, you know, it was just a case of not making a mistake. I got caught with the GT car and I lost a couple of places. Just kept it going, and then unfortunately Frank had an incident with the GT car. That got me back into the lead of P2. And it was just, you know, just keep it there, and it's an awesome result for the team. It's fantastic.
David Brabham brings home the 3rd win for Patron Highcroft Racing this season.
We've seen that a few times this year. Twice they won on pure speed. This time they incorporated no mistakes. You take a look at the points, closing it up again on the Dumas-Bernard duo that is leading. Now only 24 back, then a bit of a gap back. Now in GT1, once again, Magnus and O'Connell putting together another run, this time getting a little bit of a break. Let's get right back down to Brian.
Jan Magnussen, Johnny O'Connell celebrate yet another victory. And Johnny, in the car at the end, I know problems for the sister car, but you guys, I know how badly you want to win. You'll take victories any way you can get them.
You really can. You know, hats off to Jan. He did an amazing job this weekend. He really dug deep. You know, the car for my stint was really difficult. I think they made some changes, and man, I tell you what, past 3 years I've been wondering if I'm really Irish because I haven't been lucky. But you know what, Jan is doing a great job. Everyone on the 3 car, you know, and Corvette racing. Most important thing is that OG's okay. You know, we are our team here. We're family, and so you know, that's the important thing. And Jan, you know, did an awesome job.
Another victory for the 03 car. You heard Johnny. Their luck has changed.
Indeed, and you take a look at the points. They are now closing in on the territory where they just finished second the rest of the year. They can maybe still win that championship, so things are looking pretty good. Speaking of pretty good, the battle in GT2 at the end of this one, absolutely stunning. We want to go back and take a quick look. First of all, at this moment here, as the number 87 Farnbacher-Lowell's entry is able to sneak by and pick up the race lead. That was a huge moment, of course, but Mika Salo was on fire at this point in terms of determination, and he gave it a run, Cal, going down into turn 5, and it just didn't work.
Here he sees him looking down to the inside very late on the brakes. It just wasn't going to happen. Too late. turns it around, and Dirk Werner just slides through there and takes that first victory for Farnbacher.
And now we're going to show you that spin from the onboard of the 87 here. We've been enjoying this view all day.
There you see it. Dirk saw him coming. He wasn't going to hold him off. There was no way. Mika was on a charge, but just too late on the brakes. But certainly a great result for that team, getting that first victory. The 87 car, 45 car, big day for them in the points as well.
You bet, swinging it around. But of course, the story, the 87, and the drivers are with Jamie.
Dirk Werner brings home the first win for Farnbacher Lowe's Racing in the American Le Mans Series. Pass at the end of the race. How did that happen with the two Risi cars in front of you?
Yeah, I think the Risi car in front just didn't see Mika Salo, so he went to the left, and Mika wanted to overtake on the left. So this was my chance, and I dived in. And he tried it again, but it was too late on the brake, so he spun out. That's just a great day for the team. I'm very happy that we could manage to get our first win and only our first ALMS season. And I'm very proud of everybody that worked together to make that happen. And I'm very happy.
The strategy came down right to the end of the race. Were you worried about running out of fuel?
No, I mean, it was not really close in the end, but the last pit stop was with quite a lot of time to run still. So the yellows that came out really played in our hands, but I think everybody else kind of did the same. So nobody really had problems.
The rookie season for this team, and a very excited team at that today.
You bet, just doing an incredible job all season long. Here are the points right now, but we want to get back down to Brian, who has found Mika Salo.
Mika Salo, a fantastic last lap right up to turn 5. I know there was no quit in this team. What happened down in 5?
Fantastic for who? No, it's we got screwed by our own team's other car, 61 car in the straight line and a restart. And we went, no, it was not restart, but when we went for the last lap, and he was weaving like hell. He was trying to pass another car, and he sort of pushed me on the grass. I had to lift off, and that's when I lost the lead. And I was still behind the 87 car when we went in turn 3, and I just had to have a go at him because it was my only shot. It's win or nothing, and we got nothing this time.
You can see there, obviously, he was very upset. They were heading out pretty quick at this point. Now, we want to remind you what's coming up yet to go in this 10th anniversary season of the American Le Mans Series. Mossport is next, and another incredible racing facility. And then Detroit. That is a great one, a shared venue. And this is some great racing. Petit Le Mans as well, all coming up on Speed. You're going to want to check it out. Don't miss it. Next on Speed is the Harley-Davidson Test Ride. So stay tuned. You love the big Harleys, and of course, who doesn't? It is another tremendous day of racing here at Road America, as it always seems to be. Thanks so much for joining us. Calvin, Brian, and Jamie, I'm Greg Kramer. Thanks so much, and until we see you next time for Mossport, take care, everybody.